Good afternoon and welcome, everybody. This would be the Jeff Cameron Show right here on 97 at ESPN Radio. Great to be with you. Happy Redemption Thursday. Let's do it. Choo-choo! You don't get the over-the-top extended choo-choo for beating Indiana at home. We win our home games. We're the ranked team. We were favored. But you do get a choo-choo because you did it in just the second game of the season with a lot of chemistry issues still to work through, a lot of rust still to overcome, and you're learning about yourself while winning games. And Leonard Hamilton did that a lot last year, and you saw how the season ended with a robust record in an ACC championship to go along with. By the way, we're online, ESPNTallahassee.com. You can also find us on YouTube. Hello, YouTubers. Good to be with you as always. You can email the program if you like. It's jcs at 979espnradio.com. All guests appear via the Phone Hero hotline. Later this hour, Lita Kemper, JoeBucksFan.com. Going to join us, talk Bucks Vikings. Big game this Sunday. We'll have it for you here on 97.9. Phone Hero specializes in an iPhone and iPad repair. 2 locations, 2915 Cary Forest Parkway, 833 West Gain Street. Online at phoneherotlh.com. That's a good thing. On Twitter, it's at J Cameron Show. We're all caught up there. Tonight, a little matchup. Couple of them, in fact. Florida Atlantic. All right. Willie. At Southern Miss. Saw where they just got beat.
Yeah, they put up 3 points, I think.
3 points against Georgia Southern. That's a toughie. Pitt is at Georgia Tech. The more interesting game. I'll watch that. I say the more interesting game. Neither game is great. But maybe a chance to tune into a couple. One at M.M. Roberts Stadium in Hattiesburg and the other at Bobby Dodd Stadium in Atlanta. There you go. 2 football games tonight. Also, the National Football League with an intriguing game. Patriots-Rams, oddly intriguing. Okay. By the way, we got 3 Friday games, Tom. And that includes one at Apogee Stadium. UTEP, if you're wondering.
Okay.
If you're wondering.
Was I supposed to know Apogee?
I'm making it my goal with the jokes that I make regarding some of these stadiums that at some point we're going to say it so frequently when we go over these games in the odd times and days that you're going to go, oh, Apogee Stadium when I mention UTEP. Or when I say, oh, this is going to be played at Sam Boyd Stadium in Las Vegas, Nevada. That would be Nevada against San Jose State at Sam Boyd Stadium in Las Vegas, Nevada.
See, yes, you know what? This needs to be the mission for 2021 is that we train ourselves and the listeners so well that the listeners and us, we know every stadium there is to know in Division I.
That'd be impressive. That's a really impressive goal. By the way, do you know Veterans Memorial Stadium? That is
that could be anywhere.
That's correct. That's Coastal Carolina at Troy this weekend. Kind of an interesting game.
So Troy, Alabama has Veterans Memorial Stadium.
Shocking.
Wow.
Do you know where Beaver Stadium is?
Oh.
Yeah, you do. It's Penn State.
Yes.
Beaver
right.
Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
You were thinking of Oregon, but it's not. It's Autzen.
Well, no, Oregon State.
Oregon State's the Beavers, yeah, sure. So anyhow, we win last night, and I am excited. And I do want to define the terms on choo-choo. I was hesitant last night. I choo-chooed on Twitter. I was finishing my golf show. We had the game off to the side. I was in the middle of rounding out the segment when we finally won the game, and I couldn't get to it in time, but I did do it because it felt like a good win. It felt like a good win. Not a great win, just a good win. It is the first win for Florida State against Indiana in school history. That's nice. We're now 1-5. You avenge last year's loss. That's nice. You guarantee in a tough week that you're at the very worst going to go 1-1. That's all well and good. Got a good chance to go 2-0. We shall see next up Florida on Saturday morning. But I think more than anything else, it's what we've been sort of trumpeting this whole time. You know, one of the reasons that we've kind of sounded the alarm of good things to come is that we figure they're going to work through stuff, and they haven't had their typical time to do so, but that you would witness the pieces, that you would see things that would excite you, that you would know once they figure out the rotation, once they get it all together, they're going to be a really good basketball team. And you saw that in the midst of working through things while garnering a win against a good Indiana team. That's huge.
Yeah, in the now, I see obviously that Raekwon Gray was our best player last night. In the first half, he was doing everything, and he was only credited with 1 steal in the game. I found that interesting because his hands were just so damn active. I would have thought.
He created so many, and also a bunch of near steals.
Yeah, but I mean, he's probably in on 4 turnovers, and he gets credit for 1 steal. And then obviously his blocks around the rim and the ability to hit the knockdown three early on in the game.
By the way, the baseline gets you some. Oh, that's quicker and faster than anything we saw from the big man a year ago.
Yes, it was. And that says that he's been doing it in camp and he's got faith in it. To break that out in a game, not against UNF or Gardner-Webb, but against Indiana, that says something.
He's an athlete at that size, man. He gets up.
The hope is the contact he took late in the game doesn't have him hampered for Saturday's effort against Florida.
I think he's okay. He came back around. I think he's okay there.
He did. He had to leave again, but that's the now is like you like that and you like what they do defensively, even though we got lost sometimes. There's enough to see. Balsa Steel in the future.
Woo!
It's going to get fun with him.
It's happening, right?
It is. Now, they got a little bit Balsa happy in the second half, thinking that was the only way that they could create a possession was to go inside out, and it was driving me nuts. I was actually happy he picked up another foul that he had to come off the court because we were forgetting about other ways to do things. But the future with him,
Tom. Good problem to have.
Yes, sir. You're going to have big time options with him. And notice that Jackson Davis, who owned our ass a little bit less when Balsa was on the court to be a rebounding presence. That is good news.
Yeah, we win in overtime. 10th straight time that we've won in overtime. We defended the home court again. It's so amazing to think of. Ho-hum, that's just what we do. But it is just what we do. And that's a sign of a very well-coached team. It's very exciting. And I really like Ham's demeanor these days. He does have such a good sense of and his finger on the pulse of his program, not only because of the way that he runs it, but he's such a wily, seasoned veteran. He's seen everything. And it comes out in the way that he answers questions in press conferences. It comes out in the way that he handles his team in situations where the stress levels are high. It's very impressive. I think he knows, like, they're working through some stuff. They were nervous in some situations last night. And the ability to calm your nerves and to slow down your heart rate and to breathe and then to show up with confidence on the free throw line, which they didn't last night, that all comes in time. There's no panicking there. He gets a sense of who they are every day in practice and knows that and engages what they are in a game against that baseline, understanding that somewhere in the middle is where they'll meet and that they're more likely to be a team that shoots closer to 75% than a team that shoots 57% from the free throw line. He knows that.
Yeah, the thing that got me excited in the toughness department was, well, first of all, with Balsa, he got fouled about 10 to 12 times last night. They never called it. It's just because he's too tall, I guess. I don't know.
Too big? I don't know.
He got hacked left and right, and he fought through it. That's the important thing.
Yeah,
he fought through it.
He was a man.
Finished around the rim, fought for rebounds. But then also, we didn't hit a bunch of threes in a row, but when we hit the threes, it was in response to something that Indiana did.
They were really big, yeah.
That's always a good sign of mental toughness. And then, of course, Scotty Barnes' three. The basket at the end is everything that's going to be, highlighted. But it was that three with about 2.5 minutes to go in overtime to tie it up when the offense was stagnant that was, wow. You've got that in you. You can reach down with that type of confidence, and also you can deliver. That's a dumb shot if you miss it. And you say, Scotty, what the hell are you doing? But if you're going to make it and it's nothing but net, that is that supernatural thing that one-and-dones have.
Yeah, well, that's confidence. And the other thing I would note, and that's confidence in the face of reasons not to have it. So one of the things that I would suggest about those kinds of players, they've always been the best player on the floor. And they've always been the guy that's going to make the play that's needed to get that win because they're just better than everybody else. And if you can bring that with you into the ACC or into an ACC Big Ten challenge with the nation watching, it ain't going anywhere. It's only going to grow from here. So that's there. And then, of course, you get the last second shot. That's just an athletic guy who's big and long and difficult to deal with, getting away with a extended step and laying it off the glass. It's beautiful.
It actually was a straight Euro step in which he doesn't come back to the ground.
I'm not a fan of the rule, but the rule is the rule, and they let it go. Basically, traveling exists, and they allow for it across the league in both college and pros. It's much more evident in the pros where guys take 4 and 5 steps, and then they call it a jump step, Euro step. I'm like, okay, that's called 5 steps is what that's called.
Hopscotch.
Yeah, they're doing that. It's okay. I don't care. I mean, we got screwed so many times in that game last night that I'm not going to complain about them maybe missing a slight travel or an extended Euro. I would say this. The travel they call on MJ is absurd on a lot of levels, and it could have cost us the game. I'm not going to do this. It's game 2. Just understand that college basketball officiating is not good. It's typically bad. I'm just not going to do it. Let's just move forward, okay? Overcome it. They did. We won the game. That's just I don't want to do it. There'll be days where we have to do it, but I'm not going to do this. Not game 2 of the season.
No, for the now, they've got to get better on their rotations and switches. I would think Florida doesn't have a guy like Jackson Davis. My hope is not many teams do, but we are in the ACC after all. But you're going to have to get better and not lose some guys around the paint, around the basket,
strong
especially
kid, man. Yeah, he's a strong kid.
Especially the featured player in the offense. But hey, game 2, that's the type of mental lapses that are going to happen, especially when your groupings are different all the time. They had upwards of 30, I think, different groupings out there.
Yeah.
I mean, what are we doing here? So you got to communicate on the fly, and they're going to learn. It's like offensive line play. You've got to have a intrinsic knowledge of where the other person is going to be, and that's the exciting part. But
soon to come, man. Soon to come.
The pressure they put on the ball and their willingness to battle last night, that was a physical game now, and they were not afraid. And Indiana's already been there. They've been through a couple of those, and we hadn't. Yeah. Really impressive.
I don't think that's going anywhere. The defense is going to be the key in the first 10, 12 games or so. I think they'll play good defense all year long. I said yesterday on the court report, I thought we'd get baskets in transition based on our defense. It's exactly what happened. Don't always get it right, but it just seems like that's who this team is going to have to be while they figure everything else out. And they should, because they've got the length and the talent to do so. And you got a lot of guys that are going to play a big part in this, a growing role as time continues. Ham talks about that.
It got shelled for today. We might play it tomorrow or on the court report, Tallahassee game day Saturday, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. It's kind of a double dip because you've got two games. But Scotty last night was really impressive in talking to the media. A couple of things he said, and just the way he says it. First of all, he's not interested in the personal accolades. You can tell why he's a culture fit. But then his teammates kept telling him throughout the game when he wasn't having a good night from the field, just keep going, keep going.
Just keep playing.
And keep attacking your 6'9". He says, and that's what I have to remember. I'm 6'9". I can get to the basket anytime I want.
Yeah, you're 6'9" and strong as hell. He doesn't have a skinny body.
Good. I like hearing him say that because then he believes it.
I agree. Jeff Cameron Show. We got picks coming up. I'll give them to you next. Back to the choo-choo for a second. I don't know. I mean, this is sort of like Corey's hour number 2, or when we play certain clips. When do we declare Cat 5s? I think I've pigeonholed myself now in having to say choo-choo after every win. I didn't do a choo-choo after the North Florida win.
No, but that's a circumstantial
You
big time.
You feel like that was a choo-choo worthy win last night?
Yeah.
Okay. I
Game
agree
5,
with you.
and now if we were on even footing, maybe not.
Also, I'm not. You guys check the number of O's in the choose. Then you'll know the emphasis. Like if I give you 3 lines of O's, that was a big win. If I give you just a simple on the same line choo-choo, okay, it's a nice win. It's a good win. Happy we won.
You've experimented with the chugga as well as like a low-level choo-choo.
Yeah, I have. And a lot of times I say choo-choo, chugga. Last night I said choo-choo, chugs, just trying to be a little cute. But it will be chugga moving forward. Just a little, aside. You're right. I can just throw out the simple chugga. There could be a hashtag chugga.
Oh, there you go.
That's all it is, just chugga. That's a win. Like, what would you declare Florida? We beat their ass every year.
A choo-choo because of the week.
Yeah.
Games 2 and 3 of the
And they're
season
good,
are like this.
and they're good, and they're actually due to beat us, and it would be impressive to win this game because they've played more, and they've got a good team.
It's an interesting thing that they're doing on the fly, too. They're getting faster, which actually might play into our hands a little bit.
I'd like that. Let's go.
Yeah, they want to up the tempo.
You posting that article?
We did not do one because there's not much data on the new Florida. Just
okay.
It's more anecdotal than it is data-driven. So
at the end of this hour, I've got a long form. We're going to have Bucks talk. Big game coming up. Lita Kemper is going to join us. So I've got to do folks. This is a makeup. This is a makeup segment. What I mean by that is I can't go long here because I want to have more time with a guest later in the hour. I'm letting you in behind the curtain. I'm letting you see some things. So really quick, let me get the picks out, and then that way I've done what I needed to do. Here we go.
I can feel it all the way down in my plums.
I'm on the trigger.
Pitt, Georgia Tech tonight going under 55. Arizona State versus Arizona. Give me Arizona State minus 11.5 against Arizona. They got problems at Arizona. I'll detail that later in the show. Illinois plus 14. They're fighting hard. I don't like that Northwestern offense. Give me the 14 points for Illinois. Iowa plus 1.5 against Wisconsin. Wisconsin's looked terrible so far this year. I don't understand why they're favored. Boise State's given 11.5. This is less about Boise and more about what Wyoming isn't this year. Give me ULV plus 20.5 versus Hawaii.
I can feel it all the way down in my plums.
Hawaii should never be favored by virtually 3 touchdowns. FSU minus 5 against Duke. I like the Noles here this weekend, guys. We're rested, ready to roll.
Turn down for what?
Boom! Finally, NFL, Houston minus 1.5. 2 sad sap teams that have got nothing to play for. Chicago and Houston. Give me Houston. Give me Buffalo minus 2.5. They're surging, playing well. Quarterback play has been really good out of Josh Allen, minus 2.5. Pitt looks like they're kind of stuck in molasses right now without a run game. Give me Cleveland plus 1 against Baltimore. Cleveland can run it, and they can play defense. Baltimore's offense is also struggling a little bit here. Give me the Cleveland Browns. There you go. Those are your wagers. Redemption Thursday. Honor system. Non-perishable food items. Make it happen. Jeff Cameron Show. Jeff, email. So Ole Miss cheated their ass off and got caught. What of it? They're now one of the hottest teams, and their former coach that cheated might be the hottest coaching prospect out there. Tell me where Ole Miss or Hugh Freeze has any regrets. Well, I mean, it does. If you're Hugh Freeze, you went from coaching at Ole Miss to Liberty. But you're right. It's going to work out for him. It's a joke, and SEC schools are going to run roughshod over college football and their deep pockets and ability to go unchecked. Kiffin is going to cheat his ass off, too. That's the kind of guy he's always been, someone who doesn't care about the rules. Already you're seeing them now flip our recruits. If you're FSU, why not cheat? Are we any worse off if we get caught? Nothing is worse than this purgatory. That from Matt. So, let me say this. We don't skate around it. We embrace it, but we also speak, and I think most of you are smart enough to hear sort of the tongue-in-cheek nature of that conversation. But I should note that we do know that there is a game to be played in the world of recruiting.
Yeah, fluffy Bisquick pancakes.
And all jokes aside, in my over-the-top efforts to explain that we need to do more in order to win that game in recruiting, you are in a position where if the game is played a certain way in the South amongst the Power 5 conferences, in particular the SEC, whom you have to overcome in your region for players, you do need to educate yourself on that game and arm yourself and equip yourself with the ability to win some of those battles, some of those games. And it may not be as cartoonish as I make it on the air, but it is real and it does exist, and there is a way to win. And this is probably my number one concern. It is not my concern about the X's and O's. Right now, we get caught up in that because personnel is poor, the season's been odd, and the results are not what we want. I have concerns about Adam Fuller. Sure, I'm with you on that. But I'm largely willing to ignore that for now because I do think it has been affected by the way COVID impacted their ability to prepare, implement, and play games. So I moved that to the back burner. But we first guessed, as did a lot of people, even those that like the hire and the staff that's been put together, and the track record, moreover, of Mike Norvell being able to evaluate coaches successfully and see those guys succeed and move forward. I can tell you that some of the insiders I've talked to still believe that Dillingham is a rising star, an incredibly sharp guy, and that was maybe his best hire. Bruce is a good hire, too. I mean, the stuff you're seeing off the field in terms of organization. I actually think there's still a lot of hope for this staff. I have some worries about one guy in particular, but on the whole, I think there's a lot of hope for that group moving forward. These results be damned. Where I worry about that group, though, is winning the game off the field. And certainly this season hasn't helped them. It couldn't. And some of these circumstances are devastating to him and them, and those aren't their fault, but they do have to overcome them. And in order to overcome this, they're going to need those connections that help you win that game off the field.
Yeah, one of my questions about 2021, as you look at it from a recruiting standpoint, would be, and this doesn't sound like recruiting, but I'm meaning it to mean that, spring game, spring practice. Can you push it back? How far can you push it back reasonably by NCAA bylaws or the ACC's rules or whatever? Because for two reasons.
I know one of them. Go ahead.
Okay, well, one of them is actually the moneymaker for the stadium. If you had a spring game where people could attend and there's no attendance restrictions, I think it would be artificially inflated because people just want to go to Doak. Like, they might not even care about the product that much. They just want to go be a Doak and watch a game.
Especially if you lure them with kid and play.
Right, exactly.
Somebody like that.
Bring them back.
Sure.
$10 a ticket, whatever. I think you probably get 30,000, 40,000 people. So that would be good. But if you're going to have a dead period through April, it would be nice to have kids on campus for junior days, but then also to see how spring practices are run. Norvell was so excited back in early March, late February, about bringing the kids to see the way practices run on a day-to-day basis.
And he should have been, because I went to those practices and I saw the way that it was run, and it was a highlight. It was a reason to celebrate. He knows he's organized. He knows that they run a spirited practice and that they are efficient and utilize time wisely. He knows that people would be impressed by what they saw. That's why he welcomes everybody in. Come on down, take a look. I'm good at this.
If it were me, and it was allowed, I'd put the spring game on Memorial Day weekend. And I'd have the game on maybe a Saturday or that Sunday. You'd have a block party. You'd have all kinds of events.
Saturday. You don't want to do it on a Sunday. Do it on a Saturday.
Well, but you have Monday off.
Oh, that's true.
So
I still do it on a Saturday.
But the later you can do it, the better, because that's more practices that you can get kids up here. I know the temperature, comes up and ratchets up, but still, like, if you could do that and put that all together, you have a relaunch possibility, recoup some dollars, and then also get kids to see what it's like around here. Not when everybody's wearing a mask and having to stay in the facility and, like, I know you're on campus, but I can't talk to you. We'll Zoom tonight. That would be a great opportunity. I just don't know what the rules are.
I don't either. And, yes, I'm certainly not against exploring every opportunity to maximize your potential in recruiting. I mean, and this is kind of what we're talking about in general.
Because you have to account for what you're talking about, which is this is a development staff, at least in theory. It's not one that's going to go pound the trail.
Well, there is a rumor out there that they may be able to add a staff member if certain things play out the way that it's been suggested they will. And if that happens, okay. Okay, now you've learned the hard way.
You also got unlucky.
You got really unlucky. But the bottom line is the reasons don't matter anymore. We've got to figure it out. You are still tasked with the responsibility of getting this program back to where it needs to be. And the quickest way to that is recruiting. And you're going to have to find a way to win some battles in the state, in the Southeast region in general, and bring in some damn good players, because this ain't going to get it done. This class sucks. So you're going to have to find a way. It's Jeff Cameron Show. And there it is. Little Van Halen riff. Means we bring in our friend Lee DeKemper, JoeBucksFan.com, the website. The Bucks coming off a couple 3-point losses and feeling the need to get in the win column, I should say. Vikings are game. Find themselves back in a playoff picture and saying, why not us? Hello, Lee. How the hell are you, brother?
Jeff, how's it going, man?
It's going.
Big game Sunday.
Yeah. Tell everybody how big, Lee. Tell everybody how big this game is.
Well, it's not big it is. The biggest game in years. In fact, the last time the Bucks had such an important game at Raymond James Stadium, which I not so affectionately refer to as the Den of Depression, the Bucks tanked against the Saints, so they were able to draft Jameis. That's how big of a game this is.
They even tried to win the damn game, though, with those substandard players. I remember wringing my hands. In fact, I was texting and calling my esteemed colleague here, Tom Lang, thinking, what the hell are we doing? What is going on here? I was irate. Luckily, alas, Drew Brees was able to summon the Hall of Fame career ability and go out there and put together that final drive so that we could go get Jameis Winston. I was pleased, yes.
Thank goodness for Drew.
Yeah.
Thank goodness for Drew Brees.
Yeah.
This game Sunday, Jeff. There's a little, shall we say, disagreement at JoeBucksFan.com headquarters. My esteemed business partner Steve Isbitz and I are on totally different sides of the room, throwing empty cans of Big Storm beer and empty pizza boxes at each other. That Steve thinks the Vikings are bloated. They have a bloated record. They have virtually no talent. The fact that they had to struggle against the Jags suggests that they should be drafting in the top 10. And I'm like, whoa. This is a bad matchup. Sure, Dalvin Cook the Bucs may be able to possess enough defense to stop Dalvin Cook, but the Vikings have enough receivers. They've got just enough defensive players, especially at linebacker. They also have a quarterback. You like that? Which I witnessed with my own eyes at the press box at FedEx Field in suburban Washington, D.C., with that comeback against the Bucs, which was the beginning of the end, but it sealed the deal for Lovey's fate. This game scares me mainly because the Bucs are 2-3 in the month of November, and the Vikings have won 5 of 6. One team's arrow is pointing straight up. The other team's arrow, you can't say that. So I just don't like this confluence here of two teams seemingly on two different paths. And the way the Bucs pass defense has not played, shall we say, in the month of November, it kind of scares me because Justin Jefferson's lighting people up. And, oh, by the way, there's this guy named Thielen on the other side of the line, too.
Well, and the best running back in football in Dalvin Cook. So
go ahead.
I understand we do a good job against the run, but I would argue along the lines that you are against, Steve, to say that the Vikings very much have talent. Dalvin Cook's the best running back in football. Kirk Cousins, a slightly above average quarterback. He keeps both teams in the game. Adam Thielen is very good. Rudolph is a savvy tight end. Justin Jefferson is a stud. They've got plenty of talent, in particular on offense. Now there are a few guys on defense, and you pointed in that direction at linebacker. I agree, but on the whole, I do worry about this Vikings offense going against a Bucs defense that has been inconsistent, to put it kindly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
this is what scares me about the Vikings offense and Bucs defense. Sure, they may be able to hold Cook. They may be able to, how shall we say, contain him. I'm a big Dalvin Cook guy. It's okay, you contain Dalvin Cook, but you've been giving up a lot of chunk plays, especially in the first quarter, against teams that can throw the ball. And, oh, by the way, as you pointed out, Jeff, the Vikings have been able to throw the ball.
Yeah.
Here's the thing about this game. Another thing kind of scares me. I don't know if argues. I like to point out that Bucs fans suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. All the losing since they fired Chucky, and all the ways they find a way to lose. Wouldn't this be a perfect way to lose the Vikings? I'm not saying they will. I'm not even remotely saying I hope so. That's ridiculous. But 2017, a lot of Bucs fans, and I'm sure you two guys included, a lot of Bucs fans were screaming for Dalvin Cook. To this day, last week, in fact, I got a phone call from a hardcore Bucs fan. Guy was screaming at me on the phone, "We could have had Dalvin Cook!" And wouldn't it be something if Dalvin Cook led the Vikings in the fourth quarter to a win over the Bucs that pushes the Bucs on the cusp of missing out on the playoffs? And here the guy is, the Bucs could have had, I'm sure. They drafted O.J. Howard, who, when he does play, he is dangerous, but his problem is he can't stay healthy. Wouldn't that be hashtag it's a Bucs life if that would happen? It's almost like the script is written.
I could do this for Bucs fans, though, and I'll come swooping in here to try to help out. Yes, our worldview is that of Buccaneer fans, and thus we see everything through that prism of depression, as you note, and disappointment. But if you're a Vikings fan, you have a long history of inexplicably losing to the Bucs in big moments. The Vikings have been owned by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that includes their 15-1 season in which their only loss was to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers inexplicably. So you look at that Vikings team and you talk to Viking fans, they'll point out the Bucs owned us all the way back to the Central. For no reason the Bucs would beat us. Many years in which we were 5 to 7 games better than Tampa Bay. We couldn't beat the Bucs, and they're right. The Bucs own the Vikings. So here we do. We fast forward as history does. We take a look back in the past and we say, how does it set up? Well, from a Bucs fan's perspective, it sets up to be a heartbreaking loss because of what could have been Dalvin Cook. For a Vikings fan, they're thinking the same exact thing. We're 6-6, we're back in the playoff picture, and here are the freaking Bucs.
You know, it's a great point. The only time I can remember, actually only 2 games I can remember where the Vikings got the Bucs was Randy Moss's first game as a rookie. It was a season opener at Minnesota.
He was pretty good.
And if I recall correctly, the Bucs lost in overtime to the Vikings, and I believe that was the infamous Austin Seferian-Jenkins Captain Morgan game.
Okay. Could be. Could be. I forgot. Such a brief time with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and so much bad happened in such a short period of time for Austin Seferian-Jenkins, including the infamous pullover and camera and video capturing an interesting conversation, to say the least.
Yeah, well, my favorite on ASJ was, I'll never forget it, I was a witness to it. I mean, the actual incident I was not a witness to, but what I did witness was him getting thrown out of an underwear football practice. I've never seen that.
Yeah, how's that even possible? Well, you knew there was a problem with Austin Seferian-Jenkins when Jameis Winston publicly called him out, basically, within weeks of them signing him. I was like, okay, well, that's not good. Because, that's a weapon you could utilize given his talent, his skill set. That means that he didn't want to work. He wasn't going to be disciplined enough to get the job done.
Exactly. So, back to this game, to me, it's sort of, I can see a shootout happening.
Yeah.
If the Bucs get their offense right, I can see a shootout happening. I'm not really confident on the Bucs stopping the Vikings. By the way, Kirk Cousins is pretty darn good against the blitz. He's like 16 of 26, if I remember right, against the blitz. So he's pretty good against the blitz. And what does Todd Bowles like to do? Oh, yeah, he likes the blitz. So that might be playing right into the Vikings' hands. I could see this being a shootout. I could see this being like a 38-31, 38-35 game. I could easily see that.
Well, the Vikings have a top 5 offense, and that's where we talk about the weapons. Listen, he's good against the blitz because he's got guys that in one-on-one situations win. So, I mean, that helps. And the Bucs, we've talked about this defense is fading. It's not playing its best football right now. At the same time, in the favor of Tampa Bay, certainly, is the fact that they're going up against, depending on what metric you want to look at, one of the bottom third defenses in the NFL. The Vikings give up a ton of points, and they give up a ton of plays in the passing game. The Bucs are coming off a bye, where presumably they fix some things. I'd like to believe this offense is going to hum on Sunday.
I sure hope so. The key element with the offense will be the first quarter. First quarter offense for the Bucs in November was putrid.
Yes, it was.
They had 1 touchdown in 5 games in the first quarter. Uno. That's not good. The whole month of November, 5 games, 1 touchdown in the first quarter. They have, to me, that's game plan. To me, that's with the talent you have to work with, that's game plan. You don't have a good game plan. So, and that goes on Todd Bowles, too. He got roasted against the Chiefs, got roasted against the Rams. I don't even want to bring up the Saints. They both sides of the ball. They got to come up with better game plans to start the game. They really do.
Yeah, it's weird. Some of it again, and I'm very interested to see because the schedule sets up nicely for Tampa Bay right now. Very, very, very nicely. Some of it is that, look, man, you played the Saints, the Rams, and the Chiefs. Those are three of the best 6 teams in the NFL. So, listen, if you plan to win a Super Bowl, you got to be able to beat one of them. You got to be able to play well. You got to be able to move the ball against those teams. But it's also not unimaginable that you played poorly against 3 of the best teams in football. So,
and 2 of those were 3-point games. So it's not like they got their doors blown out.
Right, 27-24. So we'll see. I mean, look, at the end of the day, I have projected, I did this last week when we talked, Lee. I said basically, I thought, and it starts with this game because this is the big one. I feel like if you get this one, you're going to end the season on a 4-game win streak. And I understand the counter to that is, okay, great, Jeff, you'll beat the Falcons, the Lions, and the Falcons again. That makes you feel really good about yourself. Listen, wins are wins. Confidence in the batter's box is confidence in the batter's box. If you hit a home run off a pitcher with a 9 ERA, you still feel good the next time you come to the plate. Doesn't really matter why. It's just that you do. And if the Bucs win these games and they win these games one-sidedly, I imagine they're going to feel very good and very confident heading into the playoffs. And that's the stated goal here. Fix your problems, get confident, play with vigor and belief. And let's see if that happens. I have a sense that it will. I know you're a little bit apprehensive.
Yeah, like I said, I've got PTSD. I expect the worst. I've been mentally brutalized by this team losing year after year after year, no matter who they sign, who they draft, who they hire as the head coach. It always seems to be the same. So that's one of the reasons why I'm apprehensive and kind of on tenuous feet, shall we say. I'm just beaten to death by the losses. I don't know. I'm like a battered child.
Let me ask you something, Lee. Anything revelatory this week? Anything come out this week that is interesting to you? Could provide some insight for our listeners that maybe they need to look at early in this game against the Vikings? Anything that was said by the head coach, by Tom Brady, or anybody else for that matter?
Well, the thing that really intrigued me, Arians said Brady really was, taking a deep look at himself, how he was playing. He basically said Brady was in the building, or not in the building, but he was working as much during the bye week as he was regular season, which is, that's kind of neat to know that he still has that passion, that drive to better himself and better the team. So that interests me. It also interests me that Arians said that the way Antoine Winfield is practicing, that there's no signs that he hit a rookie wall. Now, he started the season on fire. He's kind of cooled off since. Now, I don't know if that's the offenses that figured him out, which, that's a big element. So that kind of interests me. Arians said that, no, there's no rookie wall yet for Winfield. And probably the biggest thing for me, interests me, was there was a huge feature on Shaq Barrett on ESPN. It was very, very good.
Yeah.
How he literally turned his career around. He was on the cusp of being out of football, and all of a sudden, within a year and a half, he's in the Pro Bowl. And he was talking about how he basically had to remake his game on the fly this year. And he didn't insinuate, he came out and said it, because teams were prepared for him. And he said in the NFL, if you have 2 moves as a pass rusher, you're dead meat. You might stick around as a special teams guy. You probably be unemployed. So he said he had roughly 8 to 9 different moves entering this season. Well, with teams, opposing coaches have all off season to try to figure it out when you come out of nowhere like Shaq did. And he admitted that he's had to change and add to his moves and his repertoire in the middle of this season. And that kind of shows. The last 4 games, he's had 3 sacks, 5 quarterback hits. So it seems like maybe he's starting to turn around the corner. He also has a sack forced fumble as well. So it seems like he's starting to turn the corner. If he gets rolling, this is a different defense.
Without question, it's been one of the bigger hang-ups of the season, and what's really forced Todd Bowles' hand is two things. Vita Vea being first and foremost, him going down really devastated this defense. They don't get to push up the middle, and it also doesn't free up the guys on the edges because they're free, obviously, not to have to double team somebody on the interior. And then secondarily, I think not being able to get pressure on the passer has led to Bowles' confusion in the secondary. So, when you can't get home, I don't care how good or talented or athletic your secondary is, any decent quarterback with time is going to find an open receiver. And I think the Bucs have fallen victim to that. They just can't get pressure without trying to bring pressure with added blitzes.
And then you expose yourself.
Yeah, in one-on-one situations. It's not like our linebackers cover well, so that's difficult. Hey, Lee, it's always a pleasure, brother. Be well.
Same here, guys. Have a good one.
All right,
again.
Take care. I listen, this is the big one. I don't know about the biggest game we've played at Raymond James Stadium in however long, but it is big because, look, I think the Bucs could lose this game and still make the playoffs. In fact, I think they would. But it's not about that, right? It's about priming yourself for a run and making a real go of it in the NFC, which is wide open. I mean, I get the Saints are the team that you would have to, and they've beaten the Bucs twice, and I really love them because of their defense. It's far less to do with their offensive weaponry, which they do have. But defensively, I like where the Saints are at. So they're the odds-on favorite. But it's not a situation where you think, oh, well, like look at Kansas City in the AFC. We all kind of look at Kansas City and go, I know what the Steelers' record is. I know what everybody else is doing. Kansas City's the team to beat. It's not even close. When you look at New Orleans, you're like, eminently beatable. Not great. We could beat them.
Yeah, that's the whole NFC, top to bottom. I mean, the Rams are the same way because Goff can look awful, and we'll see what tonight brings against the Patriots. And he can look really, really good.
Yeah, he can. Yeah.
The Packers have
Especially
been an enigma. We destroyed them when they came down to Tampa. And obviously, they have their moments where Aaron Rodgers is just completely God mode, unbeatable. And then you look at the Saints. Well, sorry, you brought up the Saints. You look at the Seahawks, who are tied with the Rams for the division lead out in the West. The Cardinals, if they make it, this Vikings team, it's a wide open field. If you get your stuff together by New Year's.
Get into the dance and get it together.
Right. This is a year about results. Now, I would call this regular season a woeful disappointment. However, I'm judging the Bucs' success in a binary way. Mm-hmm. It's Super Bowl or bust. Yeah. That's what Tom Brady's about. So while this regular season is disappointing, you still have time on the clock to get your affairs in order before you get to the playoffs, and then you can go on a run potentially.
Well, yeah, and it's funny. I would vote for this season as an incomplete right now. If they win the remaining games and finish the season 11-5 and have a couple of those signature moments like the routing of aforementioned Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers, I would say that it's a fine regular season. 11-5, playoff team, finish second to the Saints, who are still really in their last vestiges of holding on to the NFC South. I'd live with that. I'd live with that so long as you go on a deep playoff run.
Yeah, you got to parlay it. I heard the podcast during the bye week that the guys do here, Joe Bucks fan, and I forget who it was, but they said not too shabby if they finish 10-6. I think that's a woeful disappointment. I mean, if 10-6 allows you to solve some issues to parlay it into a deep run, as in going to the Super Bowl and maybe hopefully winning it, all right, then you can look back at it and say not too shabby because you use the regular season as a tool to get where you want to go. Fine.
Yeah.
But on its face, when you get outclassed, I mean, listen, Andy Reid had a big hand in why that game was a 3-point game by the time the final gun at zeros.
Yeah, but we're going to have this argument in perpetuity, I think. The Bucs have 2 losses to the Saints, a loss to the Chiefs. I mean, that's 3 of your 5 losses. You have a loss to the Rams, who are also one of the best 6 teams in football. You have 1 bad loss. It's against the Bears by a point on a Thursday night. I don't like it. I mean, that's ugly, but you have 1 bad loss.
Yeah, but wouldn't you say that round 2 against the Saints, you're outclassed? You're outclassed against the Chiefs.
Yeah, the Saints games are undressing. It's not pretty.
That the hope in that game was subsidized by Andy Reid. It wasn't anything the Bucs did or adjusted to in the second half.
I agree, but even
so you're outclassed by. I mean, that's later in the season. If that was September, I hear you, and then you're trending in the right way and you're getting better. They're getting worse. Yeah, so that's what this next month is about.
Right. Let's see. Let's see if they're getting worse. Because I would tell you that I think the Vikings, and as pointed out by their last 5 games, are trending very much upwardly. If you handle them and you win this game, just cover the spread, whatever. You win this game, okay, here we go. And then from there, take care of business against the downtrodden Falcons Lions, and Falcons. By the way, and beating the Falcons won't be nothing. You should do it, and I expect that they would. But the Falcons are playing hard for Raheem Morris. They're playing hard for him. So you're going to have to show up.
And 2 times in 3 weeks is tough. Unless in week 17 the Falcons just call it a day and they shut down all their guys, which they might.
Yeah.
But to beat a team twice in 3 weeks is tough no matter what the circumstances are.
But also, if we're not able to position ourselves any differently with that final game against them and we just decide to roll out second teamers, who cares?
Right. Well, see, okay, so, but I think the two trends, and this is the broken record of 2 weeks, this is what happens with the bye week. You say the same things over and over. Mm-hmm. But you're trending the wrong way defensively.
Yes,
you were helpless against the Rams, you're helpless against the Saints, and you're helpless against the Chiefs. Right? I mean, you'd say that on that side of the ball.
Yeah, I'm very disappointed. We agree there. I am very disappointed with what's happened on the defensive side of the ball.
And then you start like a bunch of a-holes in all those games.
You do. That's true.
That's the problem. That's a big chunk of the game.
Yeah. Well, they'll probably start on fire this week.
They're going to score 21 in the first quarter.
You never know, buddy. Here you go, coming off that bye week, well rested. They've gleaned some insight to who they are. They've looked in the mirror. Go back, wrap it up. Scuttlebucks. Number 2, Redemption Thursday edition of the Jeff Cameron Show. Thanks for tuning to it. I'm Jeff. That's Tom. We're online, ESPNTallahassee.com. All right. Redemption Thursday wagers. Got them right here. Throw them out to you momentarily. Tip of the cap to you YouTubers. Noles win last night in basketball, 69-67 in overtime. We got football tonight right here on 97.9 ESPN Radio. Got the Scuttlebucks tonight when the show concludes. If I were a cheesy FM DJ promoting some sort of rock block, I'd say you keep it locked in right here on 97.9 ESPN Radio for the foreseeable future. Remember rock blocks? They still do rock blocks.
What is that, just continuous commercial-free music?
Rock blocks of we've got 3 in a row coming up from Bachman-Turner Overdrive. It's right here on 95.
We're taking care of business.
Yeah, they would use it. No, they wouldn't be above that. Time to take care of some business right here with a rock block 3 from Bachman-Turner Overdrive. And you'd go, I don't need 3. Don't need 3 from BTO. 1 will do. Maybe 2.
the only thing I can remember with 98 Rock down in Tampa, and they just lost one of their DJs, just passed away. That's very sad.
Deuce is his name, I believe.
I believe that's right. Yeah. Mandatory Metallica was the thing.
It was a big to-do. Mandatory Metallica became a thing all over the country at every single station that sounds like 98 Rock, which 98 Rock began to skew sort of what would be considered modern alternative some time ago. Unfortunately, went away from more of the straight-up heavy metal that I would have preferred.
It was we had it on in the kart bar for the 2 summers that I worked at the golf course, and it was the same playlist. It probably still is, but it was like Stained and POD, little Metallica. Mm-hmm. They'd never work in the Killers.
No, God, no.
No, and then you'd have an AC/DC or something. But it's just, that's it. You'd hear Stain, you're like, oh, or System of a Down, which was good. It was nice to hear System of a Down.
Yeah, I agree with that. By the way, as an aside, I know we just got done hearing from Lita Kemper. I would say this to you, that Mike Evans was nominated for the Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year award for the 2nd year in a row. We talk a lot about these guys and what they do and do not do and what we like and do not like about their personalities or things they have to say or whatever it is they're involved with. Should always be duly noted that Mike Evans is a hell of a really good guy.
I think that Antonio Brown should be nominated for the same award for not getting in trouble or not even a peep coming out of Tampa for the bye week. Congratulations to Antonio Brown for that.
I would also note that man is in dire need of money and isn't going to say a damn thing regardless. He is sane enough or has been on enough medication to come to the conclusion that throwing away $30 or $40 million is asinine. And for what reason? I never really did figure out what that was. There wasn't like a cause associated. It was just he was insane.
That's correct. Yes. Well, he thought that there was a government conspiracy against him because of the food he saw in his refrigerator. So he probably was the guy who spent a lot of money on security systems like the Watchmen HBO series. Remember that guy's Property?
Yeah, it was awesome.
I'm telling you, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
The security, yeah, that's him on the phone talking to the security system.
That scene's awesome when they're coming and through the field.
Mm-hmm.
Woo. That was a good series.
It was.
It was a really good series.
I hope they don't do a second season.
No.
Just leave it. Leave it where it was.
As much as I love Regina King, they don't need to do another series. But, yeah, man, that was – Don Johnson was – he kind of stole the show.
He was good. Briefly. So Jamie had to tip the cap because there were some circumstantial things that happened the first couple episodes where Don Johnson's twist was entirely predictable.
Sure.
One was if you look at the staff on his compound. They all look a certain way.
Yeah.
And the first thing I thought was,
is he going to be part of the problem?
You're establishing that you're in Tulsa here, and you've got some things going on, relations-wise, race relations-wise, and this guy's just got all white people? Okay, understood.
Yeah, and so that was a little bit more in terms of setting things up. They did it poorly. It's too overt, but not his performance. His performance
was fantastic.
Yeah, he was great. Especially, my man's doing cocaine at the dinner table. Yeah, well, not in front of him, but you're like, sir. And it was just accepted. They're all like,
hey, check your nose, pal.
As he sips his wine, you're like,
he's been through a lot.
Okay. Oh, man, it's just out here having a social dinner and snorting up while we're hanging out and talking.
Singing to people he hates.
Yeah, and he did a good job with the singing.
He did.
I was like, look at you,
He had to gear up for it.
Yeah, he did. He needed a little incentive. Here we go. Wagers. I've got them. Let's get to them. Pitt versus Georgia Tech. Under 55 tonight, everybody. We're going under 55 tonight on Pitt, Georgia Tech.
I can feel it all the way down in my plums.
So, at the beginning of the year, I bet against Kansas every week. And I won those wagers all except for one time against West Virginia, where West Virginia's sorry ass gave up a 90-yard kickoff return with a minute to put.
I saw it just like you did, live. Gus Johnson. There he goes. He's running at 5 miles an hour.
When he broke the first tackle, I went, oh, don't do that. Don't do that. And my dad was watching with me, and he's like, I take it you got some interest in this game. Yes, all they got to do is tackle him. Oh, they're not going to tackle him.
It was a 25-second return.
It took forever and a day.
He's at the 30.
Mm-hmm.
He's at the 35.
And you knew I had the bet.
Yep. Oh, I did too.
Oh, yeah.
Over midfield.
Nobody's going to get this guy? Well, then the punter's chasing him. I'm like, oh, this guy's not going to do anything. He didn't.
Will anybody catch him?
No.
Surely somebody will.
Somebody. Slow, fat lineman got a shot at this one.
Napping on his feet at the 20.
Oh, boy. Under 55, Pitt and Georgia Tech here. Arizona State versus Arizona. Okay, so let me go back to this. Last week, I took Kansas, had a hunch, thought they'd make it a game. I actually thought there was a chance they could win it. They lost by 3. Somebody tweeted at me, your Kansas pick. I said, that's right. Feeling it in the gut. Got it down. I knew it. But what I didn't tell you was that lately I've got a standard bet against Arizona. Arizona's terrible. Kevin Sumlin's a drunk. And when you read these things, that's the talk. Now, allegedly, there you go. Allegedly, Kevin Sumlin's a drunk.
Wow,
he's got
down.
He's got a drinking problem. And they look
That's what that means.
Yeah,
yes.
They are ill prepared, Tom. They are ill prepared. When you watch Arizona play, it's like they didn't practice. My man's cutting practice short. I think we've got issues going on there. But what are you going to do? He's stealing money. So the point is, always bet against Arizona. So I did. Arizona State giving 11.5. I actually put the number on the wrong side. You know what I just realized? Matthew, I made a mistake. You got to have to switch that up. Arizona State minus 11.5, not Arizona minus 11.5. I just realized I put it on the wrong side of the ledger there. I'm gonna mislead the audience.
He cleaned that up earlier. We had talked about that in the pre-show meeting. He's like, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Good.
World needs plenty of bartenders.
I'll take Illinois plus 14 against Northwestern. The Fighting Lovies are fighting. They are fighting. I give them credit. They hang around. They're kind of interesting. Iowa's getting a 1.5 to Wisconsin. I don't know why. I don't think Wisconsin cares to play, and they looked dreadful. What are we doing with Wisconsin? I'll take Iowa plus a 1.5. I took Boise State minus 11.5 against my dearly beloved Wyoming. The Cowboys just, I don't know what's going on with that program, Tom. I try to tune into them. I like them. I love the uniforms. They just never win anything. They don't win anymore. And ever. UNLV's getting 20.5 against Hawaii. Hawaii's been awful this year.
I can feel it all the way down in my plums.
I knew that.
I
was
can feel it all
coming.
the way down in my plums.
These two teams are terrible. This is a hold your nose and lay it or take it. This is what that is. Hold your nose and take the 20.5.
That's what I call Duke basketball.
This is a toughie.
Hold my nose and give it to him.
Yeah. Well, in this case, you're holding your nose and taking it. 20.5 because, damn it, man. I don't like the game. I don't like the teams, but 20.5. What's Hawaii doing favored by 20.5 over anybody? That's what I said when I saw it, so I took it. And finally, I'm embracing our beloved Noles. I'm going to hope that the time off to heal up both mentally and physically pays off in a big way this weekend, that the dead fish and the Blue Devils have no desire to be here, no desire to be playing football. They certainly resembled a bunch of walking zombies last week against Miami. Let's hope that continued level of effort or lack thereof is what we witness here in Doak Campbell. And the Noles, given 5, take down the Blue Devils and keep the streak alive, baby. Keep the streak alive. I gave it. I laid it. All 5. There it is.
What a development. That sounds like you've got more than 20 units of confidence on that, too.
I like us. I mean, I think, my one fear, obviously, is that you have 3 corners in total. So, that could be problematic.
It might be.
You lost
Might
your
be an
best
issue.
player, so that's an issue. But I feel like a 38-31 game is in order, maybe. Even if Duke, like I said, if Duke cares to be there, I don't think they're going to get stops.
3 corners. They better be in 4 wide all game, right?
If you're Duke, yeah, absolutely. In the NFL, I took Houston minus a 1.5 against Chicago. I think Chicago's quit on Nagy.
Houston keeps trying to. Now, the question is,
Lose every week.
were they broken last week by that final straw? Because now they can't make the playoffs.
Well, that had to hurt.
Yeah.
But the Bears have fallen on hard times.
They have. That's 2 teams who lost in terrible ways. Terrible ways.
These 2 teams are down on the corner sharing a bottle, talking about what could have been.
What's interesting about the way those 2 teams lost, they both lost with a fumble inside the 20-yard line. It's just one had the ball going for the
to
win
score, yeah.
with the lead, and the other one was going in to score to take the lead, but they both fumbled it away.
It's a toughie.
My God.
Yeah. As soon as the strip sack happened against Chicago, I went, they're going to lose. They're going to lose. Holy moly.
I don't know what the weather report is. I can guess, obviously, it being Chicago in December. But if Watson goes off again this weekend, then he is just going to do so in perpetuity. Because here's another situation without Will Fuller.
Yeah.
He'd have QT and Cooks on the road at Soldier Field, and he goes off. Then he just will. That's it.
I took Buffalo. I think the Steelers are in a bit of trouble. I haven't liked the way they've played in the last several weeks. They looked awful against Baltimore, who's really got nothing right now. And then they lose that game against Washington, blow a 14-point lead at home. They can't run the ball. This is the weirdest thing. Watching this season, and Connor means a lot to them. When he's not, now he's off the COVID list, so he's got to get right because they can't run without him. A lot of times when you see a strong running game, you think to yourself, well, the running back's a good player, but they would probably run the ball with anybody back there. It's the nature of the scheme. It's what they do. Got a good offensive line, and they commit to it. The Steelers are one of those teams that when he's not in, they don't run the ball well.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like Denver was a team which it was the system. Remember they had a different 1,000-yard rusher.
Anderson.
Over 6-7 years. I might be exaggerating a little bit, but it was at least 4 different guys.
They were just plugging anybody in there.
Right. But you would think that would be the case with Pittsburgh because the Lev Bell situation ended and Connor just
took off.
Plug and play.
It doesn't appear to be the situation, man. They take a step back when he's not in there, and McFarland is just not nearly as good. I mean, that's your situation. He's just not. And I like that Buffalo team. Let's have the conversation, everybody. Josh Allen is good. He just is. He's just good.
You have remanded him to 22 of 44, 189 yards, a touchdown, 3 picks, 7 carries, 82 yards, a touchdown, and a fumble. That's going to be his line this weekend.
That's a lot going on there, man. You got picks and fumbles and everything else. You think Josh is going to be incompetent?
There's going to be enough where people say, well, he did some things. And then you're like, forget it.
I don't know, man.
He sucks.
Buffalo's got an identity, and he's a big part of it. That guy extends plays. He's big as hell. He's fast for his size. He's got a cannon for an arm. I think he has the best arm in the league. It's unreal looking at him throw the football, and especially on the move. When he goes to his right, it is a laser show.
Well, that's a great game and a weekend where you've got quite a few headliners. Bucks Vikings, for importance sake, they're sending Buck and Aikman. We're the Buck and Aikman game.
All right, Buck and Aikman.
And you got that game on Sunday night, and then Monday between the Browns and the Ravens. That's a show-me game.
It's my next game. I have Cleveland +1 against Baltimore. You've shown me enough, Cleveland. I'm taking you in prime time to step up and get it done against the Ravens, whose offense is struggling to throw the ball consistently. I'll take Cleveland. I like Cleveland's defense, by the way. I like their commitment to running the ball and throwing off a play action. Okay, you got me. Don't think Baker's a stud by any means. I do think he can beat you off a play action, and if you commit to the run and play good defense, you can win a lot of games, especially this time of year. Give me Cleveland against Baltimore +1. Just as I said in the previous game, give me Buffalo -2.5 against Pitt. I'll do it. I like it. Sounds good. Those are my 10. Let's monitor them closely and celebrate our victories on Saturday, Sunday, and even Monday. I would say that, the Redemption Thursday wagers have lost their luster this year with all the canceled games and unpredictability and, all that. It's been tough. It's been a tough year.
I'd like to request that next week when the PGA returns to action, you add in your DFS.
Yeah.
Yes, your PGA plays.
I keep winning those.
That's why.
I send them to you all the time. I tell you, look.
On Fridays.
I won again.
Yeah.
Won again.
Yep.
I keep beating jokers I don't even know. I want to talk smack to him after I beat him. I beat this last guy by 36 points. I'm like, what are you picking? What are you doing? You're not even close. We're talking about golf.
Bo Hostler.
I'm like, what are you doing, man?
Yes, sir. Just give me your money now.
Study the course history. You got to know what these guys do. Do they like windy course? Do they like to play in the wind? Do they like this kind of grass? Have they played well at this particular course before? You got to arm yourself with the tools to succeed.
Actually, we might need that on Wednesday. It would be too late if we did it
That's
at
true.
3 o'clock
That's
on a Redemption
yeah,
Thursday.
I can throw it out there on a Wednesday. I would also note that we've got games tonight, and I just mentioned it, but I am actually very excited at 7:30 to watch the Patriots and the Rams. I just am. I have this funny feeling, and I could be completely off base. Admittedly, it's another gut thing. I kind of feel like the Patriots are going to keep that close. I know that they ought not because they can't throw a forward pass. And the Rams do have a good defense. So your inability to not throw a forward pass, become one-dimensional, should exclude you from keeping this game close. But I think they'll have a little something for Goff defensively. And then, when you're playing an unorthodox offense, which is what New England has taken on, I think sometimes teams really struggle to prepare for that.
So I'll forget the coach's name, but there was a story today on NFL Network about this particular matchup, and it was a field report about Jared Goff seeing six-man fronts and how the Patriots used the Chicago Bears when they played against each other in the Super Bowl. Belichick saw what the Bears did to Jared Goff in a game in which he turned the ball over 4 times, and it was awful. Soldier Field. Remember the game? He didn't want to be there.
He remember the look
in
was
his
cold.
eyes. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So Belichick, being the coach he is like, well, what did they do? And they copied it. It was a 6-man front. And then in the Super Bowl, the performance was eerily similar. Throw for like $180 at 5 yards an attempt. Turn the ball over a crap ton of times. But what was interesting is since then, McVay hired one of New England's defensive coaches, and he's now on the Rams staff.
Yeah.
So they should be prepared for whatever wrinkles that the Patriots throw at Goff. And McVay has said, since then, we've seen the 6-man front a lot because teams went to school and we've gotten better.
Copycat league, man.
So is Belichick out of tricks, or does he have another trick?
Another trick? Yeah, it could be right. That's the question, right? Could end up being a lopsided affair. He doesn't have another trick, and we're done here. He just wears a beating. Could very well be. Something tells me they're going to do this thing that annoys the hell out of everybody and be there in contention for a playoff spot. And we're all going to go, how? Look at that team. How are they even in this conversation? This is ridiculous. It doesn't feel that way?
Yeah, like the Patriots finish 9-7, and they're right there on the cusp.
Yeah.
And so do the Bucks. And, you're just
that would be that'd be advantage Bill.
Indeed it would. After everybody declared the fight over by Halloween.
Yeah, that would be advantage Bill in a big, big way. It's Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. I'm thinking back on when LSU lost 48-11. 48-11. Remember, it was a weird score. 48-11 to Auburn. I think that's right. And that was the first time that we heard that LSU had more than a problem on the field, that there were developing concerns about stuff that was happening off the field. Now, I'll grant you, in that game, the LSU defense gave up over 200 yards rushing. They gave up over 300 yards passing. They were horrific. And at that time, they were giving up over 33 points a game. And I used them as the example of COVID having such an impact on the season. And there have been a lot of them since. Very quietly, there was a game last weekend, Tom, that I didn't even touch on. Rice shut out Marshall. And the reason I bring this up is that, Marshall was really good prior to that game and was a 24-point favorite and lost by 21 or 20.
I think it was 20-0. Yeah.
20.
Yeah.
So that's a 44-point spread differential in cover. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. That could only probably happen in a season like this.
Wasn't that our guy? Isn't he? Is he still the coach out there?
Who, the Rice guy?
Yeah.
From Stanford? Double check that. He might be.
Yeah. And he's Tallahassee
He's
connection?
Tallahassee guy. Yeah. Double check.
All I know is Rice.
Great bit. Okay, so at that time, the conversation happened and people thought, okay, well, just statistically speaking, boy, there are some real problems here. They're not playing well. And they're, at this point, it seems really odd that a team that just won the national championship and put together one of the greatest seasons that college football's ever witnessed is this bad, despite all of the losses, despite the personnel losses and the coaching losses. There's just no way that should happen. Now, I'll grant you, when you lose Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Patrick Queen, Justin Jefferson, Chason, and the Phillips kid, and a bunch of others, that's a problem.
Mm-hmm. Patrick Queen.
I said Queen.
You did?
Oh, yeah.
Tallahassee is correct. Mike Bloomgren is his name.
Doing well.
Yep. 2-2 this year for Rice.
Shocking win there, 21-0. Now, listen, again, you lose Chason, Jefferson, Queen, Edwards-Helaire, and they all left early. That's tough. I mean, I get it. You're going to have a step back, but this has been epically sorry. But in addition to that, I think you go back to what some people said after that game, which was, oh, no, they got much bigger problems than that. There's some stuff coming down the pike, and they know it, and there's a locker room issue. They don't like their head coach anymore. So if you go back to the USA Today report, where it was alleged that several LSU officials had knowledge of sexual assault allegations made against former running back Darius Geis and other former LSU players, and ignored those complaints or denied the victim's request for protection. Now, that is a weighty allegation. I mean, that is, people go to jail for that. That's that's Penn State-esque. We've got some real problems going on here, if true.
Urban Meyer level stuff, too.
That's right, if true, right? You're again alleging that LSU ignored sexual assault complaints, plural, and denied victims' rights. That's a real problem. Now we get to where we are today and the kinds of articles being written about LSU and what LSU has announced. They self-imposed a 1-year postseason ban, notified the NCAA and the SEC that it is self-imposing a 1-year postseason ban on its football program for the 2020-2021 bowl season. Well, we're going to have to worry about that. The department says it came to this decision after reviewing the NCAA rules violations discovered during an NCAA and IARP investigation. Quote, I respect the university's decision to proactively address NCAA issues from the past, said Ed Orgeron. I'm fast-forwarding here. I just think that we see where this is headed. Ed Orgeron is going to end up in a very similar vein to 5-19 is not what we need.
Mm-hmm. Old Gene Chizik.
So Chizik wins a national championship, and it seems like an hour later people are like, Gene Chizik can't coach. That was Cam Newton. You know, and then everybody's like, well, come on, give the man a credit. I mean, he got him in and they won the game. And well, okay. But pretty soon you're going to see he can't coach a lick. Turned out to be the case, although the irony twist there is that he ended up winning the award that goes to best defensive coach, best assistant coach.
Yeah,
Frank Broyles Award, whatever it
maybe
is.
twice. He was
He's
a
a
high level
defensive line
OC
coach.
and DC.
Yeah, he did
in his
too.
career.
Yeah.
So he's got chops, but it's just
Not as a head coach.
no, not without Cam and Michael Dyer too on that team.
And so, by the way, here we are now. Ed Orgeron is, I think, going to probably not be in that position as head coach at LSU for much longer. And it's crazy to talk about. I'm just talking about projecting. They're firing him this year, but we're not far away from them going, we've got major problems with the NCAA. This is just scratching the surface. We're not winning games, and our players hate him.
Well, they've got problems with the NCAA on two levels because Will Wade and what's going on with the basketball program, they're also under fire. And if you also look in that division, Bruce Pearl called it a day before they did the same thing. It's just much later.
Much later, yeah.
Auburn said, this ain't going to go well for us. Let's just call it now before we get the season started. LSU is like a game away from being done. And they're like, hey,
we're going to call it a day.
It might be COVID, might be an opt-out. But we're just not going to go.
Well, this is a long list of self-imposed penalties the program has already adopted, including a reduction of 8 scholarships and 2-year disassociation from Odell Beckham Jr. They will forfeit 4 scholarships in each of the next 2 years. And the only thing that's helping them is that none of these penalties affect the 2021 class. So they'll still be able to assign the maximum 25 newcomers this year. The recruiting reductions, which really have a crippling effect on programs, lead to the elimination of 12.5% of official and unofficial visits, a 21-day reduction of the normal 168 days of allowable off-campus contacts, and a 6-week ban in communications with prospects. This is huge because you're in the West and you're competing against Alabama for players, and it's hard enough to win that battle, let alone with restrictions.
This by itself disqualifies you, I think, from beating Alabama for any meaningful player who would be a 5-star. You're done at that point. Now you're looking at 4 stars that Alabama may be interested in. If the numbers don't work out at a certain position, then they could just pluck them away from you. They're in real trouble, and they're asking the NCAA, no mas, don't hurt us any more than we want to hurt ourselves and currently set ourselves back. But you know what's going to happen.
Well, no, they're going to have the hammer dropped on them here, and there's a lot more to be brought up. In late August, the NCAA submitted both the football and basketball investigations. Tom, you just alluded to the basketball one, to the IARP for review. The football investigation is completed by LSU. The basketball one is still ongoing. The school is also going through another investigation. This one's conducted by a law firm separate from the NCAA to determine whether the school ignored domestic and sexual violence complaints, just outright buried those complaints. At least 9 LSU football players have been reported to police for sexual misconduct. 9! And dating violence since Orgeron took over the team 4 years ago. LSU reportedly gave 60 files to the law firm that was hired to oversee the investigation. 60 files documenting dating violence and sexual misconduct of at least 9 different LSU players.
So they did have records of it then. It wouldn't be just a complete systematic ignorance or willful ignorance on the part of the football program.
They're said to have willfully buried that. Yes, they investigated and
right. Yeah. We're saying the same thing. It's
Yeah.
like they didn't ignore it to the point where there wasn't a trail. Like you can say, if you have evidence that they documented it and then they didn't do anything about it,
yeah, you're dead.
then you have the Title IX implications because remember that whole part of the process. You've got real issues.
And they play Florida Saturday. Take the Gators, guys. Take Florida to win that one.
And there's still bad blood between the administrations.
Yeah. 3-5 is LSU currently. They're really not competitive. I would note again that if you watch the Alabama LSU game, you know that Alabama could have scored at least in the 70s or 80s. At least. If they had decided to go hell-bent on running it up, they could have maybe gotten into the 90s or 100s.
The problem is what's that number? Because Florida's playing in the SEC championship game next weekend, and they have a propensity to give up 95-yard drives for no reason in the fourth quarter.
What's going to sting forever?
2 of them.
I know. That's the thing that gets ignored with the clip that I sent you on Twitter, although I liked your retort. Just I had to send it to you. I was up. It was that
That's
night.
fine,
It was
you
that night I couldn't sleep, and I was up.
Yeah, I know. Why didn't they show the whole thing? That's crazy.
Oh yeah, because there was another one. They didn't show the whole thing. But as soon as they said let's go to Bad Beats, I was like, oh Tom, I got it, because I knew they were going to lead with that one.
They had like 320 yards of offense for the whole game. 190 of them came on 2 drives in the fourth quarter, down 31-7.
the
You kidding me?
last 2 drives of the game. Yes.
To backdoor the hell out of your boy.
And you were watching it as it happened?
Oh yeah, because it was leg 2 of maybe a 3-team potato chip.
It could have been a
multiplier.
big to-do, yeah.
Yeah.
So Florida's favored by 23 this weekend against LSU, and I want to take Florida, but I don't love Florida's defense. I want to get I'll tell you what, you want the Pika headline because Alabama's going to beat Florida like a drum. If you can't tell every week, I'm really high on this Alabama team.
Yeah.
They are great, COVID or not. They are awesome.
Like this would be a candidate again for because they're playing a game. Alabama first half against Arkansas, and then they just kind of shut it down. But do they? Do they even care to play the first half at this point?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, and that was the most heartbreaking loss for Arkansas that I've seen in forever. I mean, that was wrong. They had that one. They lost 50-48 and gave up over 20 points in the fourth quarter.
Did they give up 2 95-yard drives?
But they gave up 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. You can't do it. You can't do it. To lose the game, not to screw you out of a cover, but to lose the game.
Tennessee went to like their 3rd quarterback of the day, and he's Rudy over there.
He's slinging it around, buddy.
Footloose, fancy free, dropping balls into buckets.
That last play on 4th down is well, there was a 4th and 3 completion, but
Yeah,
the
damn
4th,
right there was.
The 4th and 10, that is a dime.
Well, and the killer is the intermediate drive that Florida has the ball. They're at like the 30-yard line. They got a good kicker, and they have a false start to take them to a 3rd and 10, and they incomplete. They decide to punt, and then they pin him down. I'm like, well, all right, well.
You're going to remember every play from that game.
The odds are you're not going to see 2 95-yard drives here. Yeah, well, you got it. Saw history today.
Oh, I've had some moments this year. This year has provided a lot of, that just happened.
Cincinnati, UCF.
Oh, well, Jesus, man.
There was another one on Halloween with UCF where they could have scored.
Yes.
And the kid went down at the 1.
Yes.
I was watching that with another interested party.
I was involved in UCF can go to hell forever, and Cincinnati can go to hell forever.
Mm-hmm.
I texted you when the Cincinnati thing happened.
Yep.
I think I texted in all caps, and I was at Deep Brewing.
Oh, were you?
Mm-hmm. I was at Deep watching with my nephew. We were buying him
where I was.
We were buying him a celebratory beer. He passed the Florida bar, and I wanted to buy him a beer. And so we wanted to go somewhere local, and I had him meet me over there. We sat outside. There's a TV you can see inside, and we're having a beer, and he sees me look up, and he goes, What do you got on it? And I go, well, I mean, I think we're going to be okay. They're driving easily here. And he goes, well, look at the time. And I see the time, and then I'm like, oh, they may not try to score. What are we doing here? Then they handed the ball up the middle with the intent to score, and I'm thinking UCF, you got to let him walk in the end zone so you get the ball back, right? That's a touchdown. What are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you tackling him with fervor like you don't understand the circumstance?
Yeah.
And once I saw that they were too stupid to understand what was going on, I'm like, here we go. Here we go. Because Day's going to take, what's-his-face is going to take a knee. I know what's going to happen. At this point, he's going to, you're not going to let us score? Okay, well, I'll just run the clock out.
Yeah, UCF has been good to me once I realized they were garbage. But in Cincinnati, they stopped. Then there was the ECU game where ECU is trying and trying and trying. They're calling timeouts on their final drive, and it comes down to the final play, and it hits. You got to be kidding me. It's been a bad year for college football.
In that category, but I got to tell you, I laugh at myself at some of these. You got to have a sense of humor because if you're going to enter the arena, you got to understand sometimes it doesn't go your way. And I've had a couple of these where I was really mad, but only momentarily. Some of them made me chuckle. That Cincinnati one made my nephew chuckle. He was just looking at me and he goes, "Ooh, that's a bad beat." Yes. That's as bad as it gets. They just took a knee on the inch line.
There are some things that are goofy and funny like that. There's no doubt. But if you have 2 95-yard drives in a quarter and you put up 7 points to that point in the game, 7.
I also think the conversion of 4th down multiple times in those drives, it's the added kicker you need to take it over the top where, okay, it's 4th and 10. Oh, you're throwing to the end zone, and he caught it.
Right.
He just caught that. That's all you can say. When you see the ball in the air, it's 4th and 10, and you see the catch, you go, he caught it.
Like, you know who did that to me
Okay.
last year was Joe Burrow against Texas.
Well.
And in retrospect, I'm like, whatever. You know, it's Joe Burrow. That's
Yeah,
going to happen.
Yeah.
Not whoever this kid is who's the 4th-string quarterback at Tennessee.
Hadn't played all year long. He's out there slinging
Let's
it.
throw him out
Let's
there.
go. Let's make it happen, boys. Should note that my friends at Craft Infinity are still selling. That's cellaring. I don't know what cellaring is. Just passing out celery?
It's like when you put a bottle of wine down in the cellar.
Cellaring.
Yeah.
They're still selling luxury vehicles that firsthand I can tell you are very comfortable rides. I'll be in my Infiniti QX80 on my ride down to Tampa this weekend, Tom. And I'll be riding the greatest of ease. If you're up for a luxury vehicle, you know you guys are. The new year's going to be a good one to you. And when it is, and you're thinking about looking at a luxury vehicle such as mine, fully loaded as it is, you go on over there and see my friends at Craft. QX80 is to die for. It's awesome.
I like the spot he's running right now about what you can actually pay with no money down. Like that's a load of crap.
Yeah, he's letting you know.
That's as good of a campaign as they've done, because that's true. Like, people are like, oh, well, I could just only pay $150 or $200 a month for my car. Yeah, if you put $5,000 down.
Yeah. Well, right.
This ain't no show up and spend $150. I got a Pinto in the back. It's used if you want it.
Yeah. I'm a no money down guy, Tom.
Me too.
I don't put any money down. Just give me the new car. Let's go.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. So I should know, because I learned a long time ago they can show you anything they want for your car. Oh, you want how much for your car? Sure. Yeah, sure. I'll give you $10,000.
I could say, as a proud Craft Nissan customer now for over 5 years, that when they got me into my first Sentra, they may have taken on a project of a car and just created an amazing
They gave
number.
you unbelievable value for your trade-in.
They were awesome.
So I want to preface what I do here next with the idea and the understanding that not all of the people that I'm about to throw under the bus are this way. It's kind of like truckers. So I imagine if you're a trucker, an upstanding trucker, that you probably are bothered by the amount of slimy truckers you run into at the truck stops, especially as you go in to shower in those gas stations that allow you to, as truckers, shower at their establishment. It's a toughie. See a lot of shaky things, drugs, lot lizards, and the like. I got you. But now here you are, this good upstanding trucker who's doing the right thing, a little slice of Americana providing for his family, but you're surrounded by shaky people. Shaky people. I always feel like truckers make good serial killers, always on the move. Now, that's not all truckers.
Is that an indictment on Matt Millar?
No. Like I said, there's good truckers out there. They're just surrounded by largely filth. That said, I have decided over the years that Major League Baseball umpires are the same as truckers. They're very much the same as truckers. A shaky bunch, Tom Lang. A shaky bunch. That's not every Major League Baseball umpire, but I think, unfortunately, the majority of Major League Baseball umpires, shaky dudes, akin to truckers. I'm sure there's some good guys out there, Tom. Good guys out there calling balls and strikes, but they're in the minority. Which leads me to this story. Major League Baseball umpire Brian Onora has pled not guilty following solicitation arrest in Ohio.
Oh, my.
Oh, it gets better. Onora was arrested along with 13 other men in Ohio this past weekend. Major League Baseball's Brian Onora pled not guilty. Onora was named as part of a group of over a dozen men that were arrested in a prostitution ring. The 57-year-old umpire appeared at his arraignment in Girard Municipal Court, was released on $5,000 bond. He will make his next court appearance in March of 2021. Onora was arrested after he responded to an online advertisement for a female prostitute. The advertisement listed a phone number which Nora is accused of calling. Authorities said that Onora used implicit and explicit language to address the woman he wanted to engage with. Onora later agreed to meet her in Youngstown, Ohio. Here in Youngstown. And he was arrested on charges of solicitation upon his arrival. The charges were a first and third degree misdemeanor, and each charge is punishable by jail time or a fine. John's stings deter those seeking to purchase sex, reducing the demand for human trafficking, and serve as a reminder that these crimes are more prevalent and closer to home than you think, said his attorney. Hey, that's not doing him any favors.
Oh, man.
Onora has served as an MLB umpire for 20 years. Of course he has. along with the rest of the scumbags that are behind home plate week to week in Major League Baseball. Not all of them. Sure, there are plenty of upstanding umpires out there doing the best they can, especially as they're surrounded by guys like Brian O'Nora, all of the other bums we bring up on a regular basis, including the Cowboy.
You know the Cowboy's not upstanding.
Cowboys made that call to that exact phone number numerous times. You know it.
The Cowboy thought that he was immune to COVID by playing golf in the summer.
Yes, he did.
When MLB's like, you can take the summer off.
Listen, have you looked at yourself in the mirror? Yeah, so that's I just see these umpire stories once a year, Tom. I'm fed up. I got to call it as I see it. These umpires are scumbags. Always on the road. Lonely. Angry. Frustrated. Entitled. They got a little bit of scratch. They're on the road. We know what's going on with umpires. And they're always combative. Always angry. They never seem to follow the guidelines, the common sense. You're never shocked when you hear an umpire say something outlandish. When a player alleges that they called them a homophobic slur or a racial slur, you're never like, I bet that didn't happen. Like, nobody gives an umpire the benefit of the doubt. Why? Why don't you give an umpire the benefit of the doubt? Because you know and I know they're scumbags. Not all of them. Not all of them. An unhealthy percentage of Major League Baseball umpires, I think, are shaky.
And sometimes they're mobsters.
That's right.
Terry, then you talk to me about that. Okay.
You gotta give us a shot.
You know what?
You gotta give us
Terry,
a shot.
okay,
Tom.
listen to me and let me hear what I'm saying, okay? You get your shot. You had your shot right there in the situation.
Well, why
you
not?
know the situation,
I know
Terry.
it. Why don't we get a shot, Tommy?
Because that makes it worse. Terry, that makes it worse.
I know it. But MLB did nothing to that guy. Nothing.
Okay, that I can't control. Terry, I can't control that. You know as well as I do. You know where I stand on the whole situation. But
You're
that's
better than that, Tommy. You know that.
Terry, listen, I'm telling you, our ass is in the jackpot now. Okay? Okay, I'm just telling you. You know what? That's you got it.
of the Jeff Cameron Show, at least for today, and a fine Redemption Thursday to you and yours. Hope you're well. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Jeff. That's Tom. We're online, ESPNTallahassee.com. That's where you go to listen live via the streaming free always. Don't miss anything, but if you do, go back, get caught up at your leisure, because we're going to post it to Apple Podcasts. You can find it right there. Then it matriculates into the interwebs and lands on Spotify and other places. That's what happens.
That's correct. Podbean, Spotify, Google Play.
Yeah, go find it. Go listen. Go rate it 5 stars and tell the world. We're on YouTube. Hello, YouTubers. Hope you're well. You can email the show if you like, jcs at 979espnradio.com. Another reminder, Guardian Ad Litem website, PayPal, they accept all of that. Want to make sure we continue to encourage that you go there and help out. So many people did yesterday. Really appreciate that. Keep it going. And then more specifics by tomorrow, I guess. I think we'll have more specifics by tomorrow. Yep.
Yeah, the specifics are going to roll out through. There's a big team effort coming, and I'm really pleased to hear about some of the things that are going on behind the scenes. And also, emails have come in, people wanting to, they might have missed the website link, which, again, if you could check at Jake Cameron Show on Twitter, at 979 ESPN Radio on Twitter. I've pinned it on my Twitter feed. Wherever you want to find it, it's a direct link to Guardian Ad Litem's PayPal, if that's the simplest way for you if you're out of town. But then there's also going to be more ways to bring physical gift cards to different locations throughout the area.
Good stuff. Florida State 69, Indiana 67. That an overtime win for Florida State, their 10th straight overtime victory, 10-0 in their last 10 overtime games. You can't help but be noted here, and I think I probably should. I make certain assumptions that I shouldn't make because we've recognized of what a good coaching staff this is for a long time, while others fought us on it, and they were wrong and we were right, and resoundingly so for a very long time. But the thing is that when you see a stat that says a team has won 10 straight overtime games, there are a couple things at play. Typically, they get pointed out when it happens. The first thing that will get pointed out is that, man, that's a really well-coached team. So there you go. That's a really well-coached team. Those kids find a way to win games in overtime, not by accident. So that's coaching, and they deserve credit. They've also been very fortunate. And the best coach teams, if you have a record that one-sided, it's like winning a one-run game in baseball. Every now and then you'll see a crazy stat where a team is 19-5 in their last 24 one-run games. You're like, okay, well, that's not statistically probable moving forward, but impressive.
Yeah, what's interesting is it's hard to argue and not trip up on some sort of nuance, because overtime in college basketball is only 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So you could say, kudos to the coaching staff for putting themselves in the position to win 10 times in a row, but it only is a 5-minute period, and the game's already tied to start the period. So you should, by definition, be in the position, but it's not by accident that you find a way to make those baskets. No, you don't fall into 10 straight wins. And it's also not by accident that you have, we're getting to a point where Florida State is going to have with no other names around it, the best record at home over the last umpteenth years. Right.
We're about to get to that point.
And here's what it means, simply put, too. You got yourself players, which the coaching staff should be lauded for. It's a different thing than in-game management, but you found yourself players who were good enough in those moments to win the games. It's called
being well-rounded as a coaching staff. You figured out how to go get players, which is part of your job as a recruiter, and then convince them to come to Florida State, which is not a traditional power. And is in the same conference with a bunch of traditional powers, and you've won the conference and changed the way that you're viewed entirely, and you've done so in the last 5 years. It's amazing. It really took longer than that, but you understand what I'm saying with the on-court success. And then number two, you've taken those players and develop them, because that's how they get drafted. Routinely, we see guys come in here and leave as better players than when they were brought in. In fact, you just saw it in the draft. Devin Vassell was a nobody when Florida State recruited him. He was not a kid that everybody fawned over and thought, can't wait to get that kid in here to Duke or to Chapel Hill. No, Florida State got him because not a lot of people wanted him, but they recognized his upside. They developed him, and he became a top 15 pick. That, too, is coaching. And then there is the fact that you, time and again, find ways when you're not at your best to win basketball games. And this is really getting to be pretty consistent as well. Florida State's nowhere close to what they're going to be by season's end. You can see all the pieces of the puzzle. You can see all of the athleticism. You can see that length. You can see that talent. You can see the ability to beat people off the bounce, the ability to defend and wreak havoc. You see all the things, the depth, potentially, all of it, it's there. But boy, are they a work in progress, as Leonard Hamilton said, and we're going to hear from Leonard Hamilton in just a second. The stretches in this game where you're just pulling out your hair, if I had some, and you're going, good God, we're not there yet. We don't know. The defensive principles aren't quite right. We're a little off. We're a step slow. We're just 6 inches away from this being perfect. It's all there, and yet you win against a traditional power. That is a tradition-laden program. Indiana has already played, prior to last night, 4 games against the top caliber college basketball programs. So you should have been rusty, married with being off. You only hit 57% of your free throws or whatever it is, which is terrible. Terrible for anybody. A high school team, that's terrible. And you still win. That's really remarkable.
Yeah, you hadn't seen that level of competition yet, and you were able to adapt on the fly to do just enough to get the job done. It was extremely frustrating, but there were times where you could see it that, I mean, it's a lucky bounce away from being a 6-0 run or an 8-0 run in 130, which is what this team is going to do. I think more often than not, when we're going to be happy with the offense, it's going to be because the defense generates quick buckets, and that's how you get the strings.
I've been beating that drum, man. It's all in transition. It's all the steals. It's in the passing lanes. It's in the block. It's all of it.
I don't know how often we're going to hit 3 threes in a row on consecutive possessions. Now, we got guys who can do it, but I don't know. Like, we had teams in the past few years that could do that and just go unconscious.
Yeah.
This one, I think, is going to have to generate it from the half-court defense.
I love Calhoun's release. I love it. I think it will turn into a much more consistent weapon for him as we move forward. He's going to be good. I like him. MJ is going to have nights where he hits a lot of them and where he misses a lot of them, but the confidence is there to take that shot, including a big one last night at the end of regulation. So he was absolutely huge. And then what can you say about – and listen, Raekwon Gray was our best player last night, but what can you say about the chutzpah and the confidence and the athleticism of Scotty Barnes? Like, that kid has no business shooting that 3. None. And he says, I'm Scotty effing Barnes. You're going to leave me open out here? That's insulting. Drawers. Hits that 3. And then obviously at the end of the game, that's just a playmaker making a play. That's just an athlete getting to the basket. That's length. That's confidence. That's supreme confidence is what that is. And that's touch. That's touch in a big situation.
And it's not selfishness because the play calls for him to kick it out if it's not there, and you know he would have.
Sure.
That's who he is.
Yeah. No, he's not going to be a prolific scorer. So that was a thing of beauty. We watch it all come to pass. Here's Leonard Hamilton talking about his team last night after the win.
We still got to grow, just gaining experience, and we got so many areas where we need to improve on. We can't shoot 57% from the free throw line. We led the ACC in free throw shooting last year. And we're probably a better free throw shooting team than we are now. But part of the early season development is playing in competition, learning how to relax, learning how to go to the line with confidence. I see these guys. We have weeks where we shoot 86, 87% as a team from the free throw line. So we're not a 57% free throw team. But that's what happens when you haven't played very many games and your emotions and your adrenaline is flowing. That's why this game is very important for us to be able to win at this stage when we still are trying to figure out who we are. Competition is fast and furious. It's coming. It's like an avalanche right now, and it gets even better. Obviously, you expect a much improved Florida team coming in. In fact, to be honest with you, I think they're probably a little bit better than a little farther along than Indiana. And then obviously everyone saw the Georgia Tech victory over Kentucky the other day. So we got a nice stretch here where we gotta stay focused, take one game at a time, and evaluate this game and prepare for the next game, and just stay focused and let's see can we continue to keep getting better and have us a fine season.
Well, they will continue to get better, and they will have a fine season, but they've got a long way to go to reach their apex. Luckily, that ceiling is so high. Man, they're going to be a lot of fun to watch and develop over the course of the remainder of the season. We'll have time to talk about the Florida game later on. Coming up next, DSG on DFS on the Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by our friends at Downs and St. Germain Research. Looking forward to it. We'll shift gears from there. Noles, though, get a win, remain undefeated. Up next is Florida. Always good to hear that. Here we go. It's time for DSG on DFS. Jeff Cameron Show brought to you by Downs and St. Germain Research, a full-service market research firm located right here in good old Tallahassee, Florida since 1981. Downs and St. Germain Research conducting surveys and focus groups for local, state, and national organizations. Hey, we say it every week. It's true. Researching to win your fantasy weekend is fun, but researching to strengthen your organization, that's a winning strategy. Online at dsg-research.com. Dr. Joseph St. Germain, how the heck are you, sir?
I'm great. I'm fired up coming off the FSU win in hoops last night. And I always like to, I watch the Jimmy V speech once a year, and that kind of led into the FSU game, and that gets me every time. So I'm in a good place. I hope all is well with you.
Yeah, it is well with me, and we're very similar. I'm juiced about the win. A lot of fun to watch that game and the ending of said game. But yeah, you know what? It is always moving if you take in the entirety of the Jimmy V speech. I'm with you on that. I did the same last night, oddly, and here we go. I want to know two things. You ready to wager head-to-head with me right now? Bucks-Vikings this Sunday. We're going to have to do it. Tom has, I think, thrown out a good one here, which is that I have to wear a Vikings sweatshirt, jersey, or something of the sort here on video while we do our segment next week if the Vikings beat the Bucks, and we'll post it. We'll put it up online. We'll do the whole thing. And then you've got to wear, and I don't know, you may even have a Jameis jersey for all I know. You got to wear a Bucks jersey when we do our segment, and that we can post for next week if the Bucks take out the Vikings. You good?
Yeah, I'm good with that. And luckily for me, for this bet, I do have a creamsicle Jameis jersey that I can throw on because my jersey collection is almost embarrassing. I'm proud of it, but most people would say that's a grown man with 60 jerseys. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I am in.
Yeah, I would be the one saying that's a grown man with 60 jerseys. I'm glad that you're able to make fun of yourself, but I also love that you have a creamsicle Jameis jersey. That's sweet. Well done.
Yeah, the creamsicle Bucks jersey. I mean, I still remember playing with them on Tecmo Bowl, and I love those, especially because we used to be in the same division, so I get to see those a couple times a year.
The Central was always fun. Oddly, the Bucks have a really good history against the Vikings, including the one win over your 15-1 team.
Yeah, Mike Allstott. We couldn't stop him that day, and then Gary Anderson and Morton Anderson took care of the rest in the playoffs.
Yep, good times. All right, I'm going out of order here. A lot of times we start with daily fantasy tournaments, and I want to jump to NFL stuff right away because I'm having success and I like it, and I run into people who also like it, but I have a suspicion of what your answer is going to be, but I may not know all the reasons that teasers work and why we love teasers and why they provide an advantage for us. Is it just about moving the number past certain key numbers? What is it that you would look to as to why teasers provide an advantage for the bettor?
Yeah, and this gets into the why of why some of these things work. The data nerd in me says just the numbers say so do it. But the why is always interesting to me. I mean, it's kind of easy to think about it with favorites. If they're favored by 7.5 or 8.5, we move through to 7 and 3. So that means we're getting it down to less than the field goal. So for the most part, you're now taking a favorite instead of having to win by X. They need to just win the game for the most part, just based upon how scoring works in the NFL. The other on the inverse is true. If you're moving it up from 1.5, 2.5 up to 7.5 or 8.5, so you're getting those points. Not only one, it's supposed to be a close game anyway, but really what it does, it really opens the backdoor cover. If your team who you've teased up to 7.5, if they're down 14, the team that they're playing against is generally okay with you scoring a late touchdown as long as it's very late in the game, which doesn't help the team win the game, but it helps you cover. And it's the same when they're down 10. If they're looking for that miracle situation, they may kick a field goal with 30 seconds left because then they have to get the onside kick and throw a Hail Mary to win the game. But for us, the folks who are betting some potato chips, that gets us within our cover. So that's generally the why as to why those teasers tend to work in that specific way.
Yeah, I love it. I really do. And you know what's funny is you're right. It's not a surefire thing. You got to have two things go right for you there. And we saw last week, I was involved in a teaser that I teased down the number for the Raiders, just basically needing to win the game. I had Raiders -1.5. And it still took virtually a Hail Mary and an epic collapse, the likes of which we've never seen before, for that to even work. So there are no guarantees in this, but you are increasing your percentage chances of coming through those key numbers. Good explanation there. Now, Tom asked a question earlier this week, and I like it. Let's address this. How do we approach late season NFL games with so many teams without true playoff hopes? So you're judging motivation to some extent, and then also teams jockeying for positioning that are going to the playoffs and how they decide to game plan. Like, can they improve their lot in life or not? And if not, do they rest? So what do you do when you look at these games? How do you approach those late season NFL games?
Yeah, it was an interesting question from Tom, and I loved it because it was something that I've done, but I haven't really looked into the why that much. And as I looked into it, it came from player motivation, and really what came out in the research that I did was it's in the NFL, it's less about player motivation. Even the players on those bad teams, as a fan, sometimes you're like, hey, tank, that would be great for us as fans so we get a better draft pick. But those guys, they're still trying to put things on tape because for a lot of those guys, it's their livelihood. So it's less about the player motivation. And what I found, it's more about the bettor's motivation late in the year. There's two things, which again, you made a very good point earlier that we're trying to gain small edges because people want something with 100% certainty, but that's not how gambling works. But really what we've seen is fading the very elite teams and fading and taking large home dogs have been advantageous in December and January. And the why is, when I say elite teams, you're looking for basically this applies to the Chiefs and the Saints. They're winning 80% of their games. The odd makers know at this point, the publics, they want to be on those really good teams so you can inflate the number and get a little bit of an edge there. And then with the large home dogs at this point, they tend to be really bad teams, which bettors don't want to bet. So you get a little bit of an edge there. So if you hit those teams, those have been hitting at 59%. And you asked a good question weeks ago, is like, trends, do you use them? And a lot of times I don't go by them unless I can explain why it would help. And this one, there's a good why that helps. So, and just to give your listeners a sense that these two trends apply to Jacksonville this week, Detroit this week, and both trends actually apply to taking Miami and Philly. For what it's worth, I want no part of taking Miami against Kansas City, but according to a trend which has a reasonable why, it does increase your percentage just a little.
And we're just trying to gain advantages. Doesn't mean you have to do it. Doesn't even mean you're compelled to do it. It's just the information by which to make those decisions, which is very, very critical in all walks of life, and that includes gambling. We have mentioned stacking players from the same game, but why is that advantageous?
Yeah, I mean, really, frankly, it's hard to get these right, the predictions. Even the best in the world don't get it right all the time. And the reason why stacks and mini correlations, and when I say mini correlation, that means I'm taking one guy from one team and one guy in another team and playing them the same game. Basically, if you look at the Chiefs-Miami game this weekend, if Mahomes has a big day, well, it is much more likely that Tyreek has a big day or Kelsey has a big day or one of the other wide receiver pieces has a big day. And on top of all that, if there's, if Mahomes scores a long touchdown to Tyreek, that means we have more points quickly. And now Miami's getting the ball back. And that's what makes these bringbacks of like playing maybe Devontae Parker, hoping to get some points in garbage time. I mean, it really ultimately, Jeff, what it means, I need to be right less times. If I'm picking one person from each game, I need to be right 9 times. Because if you're winning a tournament, you have to basically be correct all the way across the board. Now, if I stack or do mini correlations like playing Tyreek and Parker from that same Kansas City-Miami game, it just means I need to be right less times. Now, granted, I still need to be right 5 or 6 times, but it's less than 9. So again, it's a small advantage. We're just trying to take as many as we can get to increase our opportunity of winning.
Okay, and you do this, by the way, let's continue down that line. You've mentioned ownership projections, and I want to know why that matters versus playing just the best plays.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, in tournaments, if you min cash, which means you basically double your money, or potato chips, or actually it's legal, so money. It's good. I mean, that's great, and you feel good about it. But where the money is in those tournaments is winning or getting in the top 10, etc. And if you're using a lineup, let's say you get all those right, but you used quote unquote all the best plays, which we've established is really tough to do. Well, you might share a lineup with 50 people, 100 people. It's crazy. So it's like you hit, but you didn't win as much money. And again, secondly, like an example, this week, Derrick Henry looks to be really widely owned by a lot, but he'll be the number one running back probably in terms of ownership. So I may do a Titan stack of their passing game, because it means I'm kind of fading Henry, and I'm basically getting, if the passing game blows up, it also probably means Henry did not blow up. So I'm moving up on the field while also the field kind of went down a little bit because Henry didn't have a good day. So ultimately, that's where that edge is. You're not only doing well because it's hard to figure out, and you're just kind of trying to hope you throw it against the wall and hope it hits, but also you're doing it when other people aren't hitting it. So if you do hit, you're more likely to hit those high scores, which is what you need to do to kind of make money in the tournament game.
Man, this has been good stuff all year long. This is so fun. We learn something every time I talk to you, brother. Keep up the great work as always. Enjoy it. I got our wager in the books. One of us is wearing the other team's colors after this Sunday for the next time we get together to do DSG on DFS here on the Jeff Cameron Show. Be well, good sir.
All right, take care.
All right, take care. Dr. Joseph St. Germain. And you know what? It's funny because we've come out of the shadows, Tom, if you look at it nationally. This is a common occurrence, this conversation that I just had with Joey, right? You look all over the country, and it's fun to go back and think of all that we've done in the last 20 plus years of broadcasting. For you and I, what have we been together now? How long?
8 plus.
I was going to say
8
9
plus
years?
here on the FM dial.
Yeah, a long time, right? So nearly a decade. And there was a time where we had to make sort of cryptic references to the fact that we may, or that's where potato chips came from. It's just this idea that we might, if you're a sporting guy or gal, like to do more than just watch the games. We would talk about it in those ways because obviously it was strictly prohibited to talk about gambling on the air or the point spread or the fact that I'm actually betting games illegally with a bookie, all that stuff. But now it's widely accepted, not unlike weed. So we're in a situation where the country's attitude towards this has shifted. But why is that important beyond just embracing something that we like? Well, it's important because once something is mainstream and more people can get involved, that includes a percentage of really smart people like Dr. Joseph St. Germain, who can sit down and try to find an edge within those numbers. And not everybody's doing that. We do that every week on this show because of him. It's great.
Yeah, the gambling community is about as secret as the Secret Service these days.
Right. Everybody knows it exists.
Well, and he was right about, the Titans example. You can actually look back to last weekend and see it.
Really?
Because of the way the game played out, the Browns took the huge lead. If you had Tannehill and Corey Davis
you were about
and
to go
A.J.
nuts.
Brown.
Yeah,
well, especially with all the garbage time damage they did, the second half, they went nuts.
Yeah.
And that got back
pulled it to within a one-score game.
Your boy may have had with somebody the Titans plus 8.5. I took it in the first half because that's what they always do. Typically, I'm betting on the fact that they are very much at home, a second-half rally team. Now, I got lucky because there was a fumble at the end of the game, and they cashed it in with about 30 seconds to go. But if you're looking at it from a fantasy stack standpoint, then Tannehill plus Dave. I mean, yes, you did big damage while somebody else had Derrick Henry, and Derrick Henry did next to nothing.
You can also, by the way, grow to understand as we talk about enlightening yourself. Look, there's one, it educates you just as a fan of the game. If you're in little $10 pools, it's something small, whatever. You just want to win those things, even if it's just for fun. Understanding these numbers and understanding how these teams work help better inform your decisions as to who to pick every week. It's helpful to educate us before we go on the air talking about these matchups and what to look for. All of this, while trying to get an advantage in this one arena, it helps you in yet another. And I find that's true of fantasy sports in general, but it's especially true of gambling these days. That was DSG on DFS here on the Jeff Cameron Show. One more time, just to remind you, you want to learn more about what they do, helping research surveys, focus groups, all that stuff. They look at the numbers. They'll provide the information that strengthens your organization. It's a winning strategy online at dsg-research.com. Jeff Cameron Show continues in a moment. Getting back to live concerts is what this makes me think about. Getting back to live concerts, damn it. Hang in. Hold on.
I've made a commitment to see these jokers in July, and COVID better not say no to that, because if that happens, I'm throwing some things.
Well, I don't want to go down this road, but we've recently uncovered dumbassery from the federal government, which may make it a bit delayed. So,
about supply chain? Yeah, well, July 31st is all I'm asking for. I mean, Jesus.
It's late July. That's good. That's
July 31st.
Yeah. It's
come on, folks.
You hang in there, buddy. Hang in there. Actually, it's funny. Joey was just saying that in terms of my son wanting to see Dalvin go for 200 plus in the Bucs win. I don't need to see Dalvin go for 200 plus. I don't need our running defense to get slashed to the tune of 200 plus yards on the ground. No.
Yeah, I think a spectacular 12, 15-yard run maybe twice in the game, where he makes 3 dudes miss, and you're like, my God, that should have been a loss of 4.
Right.
That's enough, right?
Yeah. I just need him to do the thing where he sets up the run or escapes in a phone booth, and you're reminded of the greatness. But that's it. That's it. Tough day at the office for Dalvin is fine. I'm fine with that.
So, especially now that he's gotten paid, and I'm not trying to insinuate that he wasn't trying hard before he got the second contract, but you can run a lot more freely, right? And you don't have to worry about things in the future if you signed your second contract at the NFL level.
Right, you're rich, yes.
So he sticks his foot in the ground and gets to his upper speed, especially on that turf up there in Minnesota, and it's breathtaking to watch. But I get nervous thinking about Dalvin putting his foot in the ground and going straight ahead, and then also Devin White doing the same and then meeting.
Woo!
Oh, my God, that's a lot of force.
That's violent, and it probably will happen at least once in this game. I mean, those two are certainly not backing down, and you have as good a run stopper as a linebacker as there is in the league, and that's what Devin does. He has put his foot in the ground. I'll meet you there.
Right. How about Dalvin bounces outside on JPP, and then here comes Devin, and it's to the angle.
It's now.
Buddy, that's awesome. That gets me fired up just thinking about it.
It's funny, too, that, when we think about Devin, now I think I've got a real good grasp on what he is. And I love what he brings to the table, not just as a run stopper, but an intimidator, because he certainly is that. He plays with a great deal of passion and energy, too, and I think that's infectious. It works well with his mate, Levante David, who plays in a similar vein, but is just not as big as Devin White. The problem is they're not good in coverage. They're not real good in coverage. And it's okay. If you're going to be bad at something, be dominant at something else, and I can scheme around that.
Well, one thing you see an awful lot between those two is a miscommunication pre-snap. And post-snap, the play's over, we'd be at a touchdown or a first down, they're yelling at each other about the hand signals. Like, we need to clean that up a little bit.
Yeah, hand signals should not be a problem this late date of the season. We ought to know where we're supposed to be based. I'll tell you what's fun.
I was throwing up the X, Devin. That means you have him.
Yeah. You know what's fun? These run fits and the sinking of a defense, the coordination, hence the defensive coordinator position. This is the stuff we've lamented with Adam Fuller, that there doesn't seem to be great coordination. And the problem is, what hurts Adam Fuller in the eyes of Florida State fans right now isn't that they give up points, Tom. You can give up points because your personnel is simply not good enough to make the plays you've put them in position to make. And that fans, or at least the educated fan, would live with. He's too slow. He's not strong enough. He's not big enough. He's being blocked by his guy. You can live with those things so long as it's coordinated, where you say, oh, I know what they wanted to do here, but that guy just whipped our guy.
Right.
Because he's bigger, stronger,
he got
faster.
To the point.
Yeah, that's fine. What you don't forgive, even in a lost season where personnel is lacking, to say the least, and it is lacking, what you don't forgive is for weeks and weeks and weeks to go by and there is no coordination. Guys don't seem to know where they're supposed to be, and people are running free. You don't have to be a football savant. You don't have to even understand the X's and O's of football to say, that doesn't seem right. That's a busted coverage. Anybody can say that and be right. There is no situation in which guys should be routinely running free in your secondary. You can maybe know the hows and whys, and perhaps you have studied the game, played the game at an elite level, and you'd recognize it instantaneously. But you don't have to have done any of that to know that's not supposed to happen. That simple utterance is correct. It's not supposed to happen. And if it happens a lot, you're not doing a good job. It's the example I've given before about not understanding physics at a high level, right? Well, okay, my physics professor, I'm sure does. However, if at the end of a very lengthy explanation, routinely, I look for the answer in the back of the book and what he explained does not match up with the correct answer, I can deduce he's not doing a good job of explaining this to us. In fact, he's wrong. I don't need to know how or why. I just know that he is. That's kind of the problem with Adam Fuller at this point. We're kind of going, look, man, I'll grant you the personnel's terrible. And we would be giving up a lot of points, even if they did everything right, because they're just not good enough. But we don't look coordinated. And when the Bucs let guys run free, and when you have two linebackers yelling at each other routinely 7, 8, 9 weeks in the season, there is only one place to look at that point. Yes, at them, but also at Todd Bowles, whom I like a lot, and I know knows defense. Why is that not cleaned up? It's reasonable for the average fan to say that doesn't make any sense. There's no reason that you guys can be that confused 5 times a game. There's no reason for that.
Well, yeah, whether it be linebacker communication or that Tyreek Hill is in singles. There's no reason.
Correct.
That is Walter. There's no reason. There's no reason.
Right.
That Tyreek Hill should ever be in singles. I mean, never.
Maybe against Jalen.
Maybe if you're up 25 in the fourth quarter.
I don't think he's completely unguardable by the 2 or 3 elite corners in the league, but I understand what you're saying.
Given the personnel the Buccaneers currently have under contract.
Yes, that's the better way of saying it. Given
Can't
what
happen.
you cannot happen.
Cannot.
Yeah.
0 times out of 100.
That's true. That's so unfortunate.
You want Mahomes to be like, damn it, I'm trying to get the ball to Tyreek, but I got to keep throwing to Sammy. And Sammy's going to go for 6 for 150, but Tyreek would have gone for 200. Oh, BS, Patrick. Nobody goes for 200. Except, yes that guy does in a quarter. In a quarter.
Go back and look at the Super Bowl. The 49ers did an exceptional job of frustrating Patrick Mahomes for 3 quarters. The problem is the guy's so good, and Tyreek is so good, that they couldn't do it for 4 quarters. They did it for 3.5 quarters until the most important play of the game, and they couldn't wrangle him. And that was against the zone, and it's just they couldn't do anything with him. At some point, those great players just make plays, and unfortunately for the 49ers, that happened in the 4th quarter, and they got tired, and then all hell broke loose. The Bucs came out in the 1st quarter and said, by all means.
Oh, it's unfathomable.
While you're fresh.
That game is unfathomable when you think that they only put up 27 points. It reminds me of 10 years ago. The Bengals and the Bucs, Cedric Benson.
Oh, my God. Cedric Benson's running down the heart of this defense every time, doing whatever he wanted, and they start throwing the ball in the 4th quarter.
It's like 10 carries for $125 at halftime, and they start throwing the ball.
That was a big bitch.
Yes, it was.
He was a big dude.
And he was feeling it that day.
Yeah.
And yet, it's just amazing how pervasive game management stupidity is there in the NFL. I mean, the college level, of course, but at the NFL level, how many times? It happens, what do you think, 40% of the games on a given weekend, you have at least one coach do something really dumb?
It's always easy, and it's a fun endeavor, and we all do this. I mean, I think it's fun to check myself. It's the easiest thing in the world, and that's why they call it, Monday morning quarterbacking or, the couch potato, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, whatever it might be. It's very easy when a play doesn't work for us to say, well, that was dumb. Why'd they do that? So I try really hard not to be that guy, the guy that we described as throw the touchdown play. Yeah, don't do that, right? But that's not even what you're talking about. We're talking about ego and hubris, where guys outthink the room. I don't know if it's just because they know so much football and they do so much self-scouting that they have an inclination and a tendency to do something that's completely unnecessary, if only because it occurs to them that it's different than what they would ordinarily do in this situation. And thus, they don't take time or, I guess, value the stock that's already been put in. There's 2 schools of thought on this. the offensive coordinators that run the ball, let's say it could be any play. I don't care. Well, we're just going to say, let's say they're running the ball successfully. And in particular, they're running the ball successfully behind the left side. And I don't care if it's outside zone. I don't care if it's a veer. I don't care if it's a crossbuck. I don't care, whatever, a counter, whatever. The thing I always find interesting is that some guys will run it until you stop it. The thought is, oh, you can know it's coming. I don't think you have the personnel to stop it. I'm going to make you come out of what you're in. You're going to walk a safety up, and then we're going to beat you over the top. But until you do, here it comes again. Bohica. Here we go. All right, fine. There's that school of thought. And then there's the guy that runs that play, at a much higher percentage in the last 2 series than he would ever feel comfortable doing because it's become so predictable that he then, before they've ever stopped it, intervenes on himself and says, well, I'm going to give him that look again, but then I'm going to throw off of it. A little flea flicker, because they'll never suspect that with all the success we're having running the ball to that side, that he's going to then turn and toss it back to the quarterback and we'll throw it downfield. And that's the play that gets picked, and it leaves him going, why didn't I just run it? They haven't stopped it yet.
Right. Yeah, you're talking about Sean Payton in certain circumstances, the latter guy.
He
does that all the time. I'm talking about clock management and then basic decisions.
If you're watching the Bucs, that's every week.
So, and it's Andy Reid with the game management situation of 4th and goal from a half yard out. You just called
a field goal.
You just called a trick play.
Yeah.
You just called a trick play on 2nd down. You're not going to go for it on 4th and a foot? Are you kidding me? The only reason that you would not do it, well, there's 2 reasons. Number one, you're incompetent. I don't believe he's incompetent.
Oh, no, not at all.
The other one, you're just so pissed off of the offense, it's almost like you're penalizing the offense. And you're saying, screw you guys. Screw you guys. We're kicking the field goal.
I think it's ego. It's, that's all. The line of reasoning is cluttered because of your own ego.
Because it can't be common sense. Common sense would be, oh, my God, we didn't get it. So what? This sorry sap of an offense that doesn't play well in the first quarter's on their half-yard line. Here comes 2 runs up the middle as long as we're there to account for it.
Well, these are the first things that I think of whenever you got the ball inside the 1-yard line. The worst that can happen early in a game is that the opposing offense is starting from inside their 1-yard line. And, oh, by the way, statistically, I know I'm armed with the information that their chances of scoring a touchdown from their own 1 is appreciably different than when they start on their 25.
Right. Yeah, you're not afraid of Ronald Jones doing the same thing he did to Carolina out of nowhere. No, the odds are, I don't even have to look at the analytics. I'd wager a guess that it's a better than 75% chance you're going to get the ball better than your own 35-yard line, your next drive.
Yes.
And it's probably a coin flip or thereabouts that you're going to get the ball between
near the
45s.
Yeah. I think
so. What are we doing here?
Right,
you're kicking a field. You are the Kansas City effing Chiefs. You're going to kick a field goal again. Worst case scenario.
You know the guy that never does this. The guy, and I say never. I don't watch every play of every game for the New England Patriots, but Belichick has been the best coach in football for a very long time, and part of it is just understanding all of that and not caring at all about what the fans or the commentators think. And we saw this going back to him having an understanding that on that day they were not stopping Peyton Manning. There was no stopping Peyton Manning. His defense in particular could not stop Peyton Manning, and he knew it. So he decided, well, I know it's 4th down on my own 35, but this is the best chance we have to convert, sustain a drive, go down and score the go-ahead points, and keep him off the damn field, because I know punting to him is death. Punting to him is death right now. So I'd rather take my chances that I've got a play I can dial up to gain 3 yards against this average defense. With Tom Brady at the helm, I'm betting I can get this first down more than I'm betting that we can get a stop once we give this to him after we've proven for 3.5 quarters that we can't get a stop.
Right. Yeah.
That's just understanding in the moment your percentages.
It's bases loaded, nobody out in the 6th inning. You're up by 4. You go get your closer. I'm going to win the game here.
Well,
this is what I'm going to do.
Yes.
I'm going to go win the game right here.
And I think what's fascinating about that is that still has not completely been accepted. And it has more, especially by like the Rays and teams that embrace modern analytics. But, I give Bob Costas credit for this, who's not exactly, a stat head. I mean, he understands the game and historically speaking, the stats of players and so forth.
He'll tell you about it, too.
But the analytics have never been the thing that, I mean, he's not anti-analytic, but he isn't the guy that can tell you every defensive metric necessary to make that decision, right? And there are guys who do, and they live by it, and they never utilize any other source of information that might counter that, right? They only live by those numbers. Well, I mean, Kevin Cash defied his own eyes to stick with what they had done all year long, and Snell was unhittable. Yeah. And he went, I don't care. The numbers tell me to do this. I would love to talk to him about that now because that cost him the game, cost him the World Series. I mean, that's a toughie.
Yes, if
he
he's
would
sticking
argue
to
the
his
results.
guns, you say, well, 12% of the time it is.
Yeah, no, that's what he would say.
88% of the time it's not.
That's what he'd say. And then the greatness of watching the games and utilizing both is that you'd say, my man, there are times where those numbers be damned. Can they hit him? Right now, the answer is a resounding no, they cannot. Let's just keep rolling here. My man is on fire. It's not like he doesn't have a track record. He won a Cy Young. We've seen him win 20 games.
Kevin, think about how we're made. We're all exceptions to a greater rule.
Yeah.
Somehow we got here.
My man, we've got it. We're going to have to, every now and again, go off the numbers. What are we looking at? We're looking at a guy that's throwing 4 pitches for strikes whenever he wants.
In the great swim of procreation, we are Michael Phelps.
I like that it's called the great swim
of procreation.
Yes, that's well
We are
done.
the exception, Kevin.
Yeah, that's the stuff, the game within the game that is so fun to talk about like we just did last segment, and also kind of to look, because there are times of great uncertainty in which you can argue both ways, and it's fun to have that argument in your head in the moment. I love doing that. I love going, well, I think I'd run here. I know the stats tell me I shouldn't run here, but I think I'd run here. And then you watch it play out, and you see what happens, and you can second guess along with each play, each quarter, each game. It's good to do. All right. Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9. Oh.
We're done. Time's up already.
I thought we had one more to say goodbye.
We do not.
Well, let me do this.
It was a great conversation.
It was. My apologies, Wooden Glass. I didn't even get your plug in. Let me do it right now. Wooden Glass, a family-owned and operated business serving Tallahassee and the Big Bend area since 1945. Tallahassee's first family and glass replacement. Highly respected for their quality of installation, both residential and commercial. Wooden Glass, 222-5781. 222-5781. We got football tonight?
We do. We got Thursday night football. We got the Scuttlebucks coming up next.
Forget about it.
Woo, it's a big week
times
in the NFL.
Good work out of you. Good work, Matthew. Be well, everybody. Take care. Talk to you tomorrow.